Hello there. Another aeroplane crash.
A Delta Airlines flight crashes at Toronto Airport and dramatically flips over.
We just landed. Our plane crashed. It's upside down.
Miraculously, all 80 passengers are still alive, but is this a sign that air travel is becoming less safe?
Crisis in Europe. Germany rejects the UK's call for troops in Ukraine as the US and Russia get set to meet in Saudi Arabia.
At stake is not just the future of Ukraine, it is an existential question for Europe as a whole.
And here's another question for you. Are prison sentences getting too long? We'll be debating that after a damning new report says successive governments have worsened the overcrowding crisis by sending people to jail.
John Burkill, better known as the chairman of Sheffield, and I have at the moment is 1.1 million for Macmillan.
A true British champion. We meet the legendary Sheffield man who's dedicated his life to raising over £1 million for cancer support.
A royal portraiture like you've never seen it before. We're asking you, can you guess the artists, and they're all royal, behind these drawings?
And in the sport this morning, Novak Djokovic jumps on the Yannick Sinner 3-month drugs ban bandwagon. It's easy for me to say. Celtic head to Munich tonight with a minor alpine mountain to climb. And Everton use their shiny new stadium for the very first time.
It is turning milder through the rest of this week, but it is taking its time. Another chilly one today, and there's a bit of snow and ice in the forecast this morning. Join me later for a full forecast.
Hello there, very good morning to you on this Tuesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast. Now, are you two any good at art?
No.
Terrible.
No.
Oh, so am
couldn't do
I.
it.
I thought you'd be quite creative.
No. No, just...
CSE 4 in art.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think the worst that is just like drawing a stick man. I was terrible at art, really. I'd love to be able to draw.
I couldn't replicate, like, facial features or anything like that.
No, I couldn't even draw a nose.
No. I could draw a house or something.
OK.
A house is all right, yeah, they can do that. Well, the Princess of Wales has been busy. She has been, maybe it's a half-term activity, who knows, but she's been working with her 3 children to create artwork, portraits, actually. So let's take a look at what they've created and see if we can guess who the artist behind the portrait is.
OK.
So we've got the first one here. So who do we think
Firstly, who are we supposed to think it is? Who is it supposed to be?
I'm going to say that's the Princess of Wales.
Right, OK.
And it's, if you're listening on the radio, very colourful, red and orange with a big blotchy nose in the middle.
Prince William.
You think
Prince William did that? I think it's the King did that one, actually. I can tell there's certainly a Charles je ne sais quoi about the way the collar's been drawn.
Prince Louis.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say that.
And I think you can tell. It looks cheeky.
The thing is, do you remember when they used to have, on like Blue Peter, and they would have drawing competitions, and it was always the worst one, which was like a 3-year-old would always get to design the stamp, and they were rubbish.
They were always rubbish.
And I'm like, you know, it's not fair.
I don't think we're allowed to say that, though. I think we're meant to say
Am I not allowed to say these are not terribly good drawings? OK.
Well, I think it could get worse, actually. Should we look at the next one?
OK.
And this is the next one. So this time the Princess of Wales has orange... No.
Is that Cher?
That's purple and blue. It does look a bit like Cher. Yellow eyes, purple and blue hair and a green shirt.
Right.
Who do we think created this one, Eamonn?
No idea. You know, don't know. Not really sure I care. But,
Ellie, I care. I care.
Princess Charlotte did that one.
Yes.
And can we just show the next one, because this is my favourite, and I actually think so talented.
that's good.
That is very
How
good.
good is that?
Well, whoever did that one has an artistic bent, a leaning.
I would agree with that too, don't you?
Lovely big cushion as well.
It's very David Hockney. Said the papers this morning.
Was it David
Hockney?
Hockney?
See that. It looks like it could be David Hockney. No, it was Prince George.
Very good. No, you can see there's an artistic bent going on there. You're right.
The right idea. And finally, the last one, Eamonn, you'll be glad to know, is this one. And this is a lovely portrait of Prince Louis. But who is the artist?
Actually, I can see that. Again, that's very good. That's much more mature. Whoever's
There's charcoals going on there.
Charcoal, yeah. Nice charcoal portrait.
Very nice. So maybe Mummy did that of one of her children then.
Ding, ding, ding.
I think you're right.
Princess Wales, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Created that. So her and Prince George clearly have artistic tendencies.
Yes.
Very good.
Now, if you're in the mood, if you're sketching someone in your house, please don't bother sending it to us. You're not interested.
Unless it's of you,
Unless
of course.
it's of you, in which case...
Send your Eamonn
you'd
pictures
like
in now.
You're
We'd
not
love to
having
see
me,
them.
Unless it's thin. If it's thin, that's fine.
You've got a great
okay.
portrait of you. Is that watercolour? Is that sketched? Another one in your...
Yes, it's not watercolour. It's oils.
Oh, sorry, it's oils.
Yes.
And that's very good as well. And it has a real likeness to you.
Thank you very much.
And you've got time for that one, haven't you?
We've got always time for that one.
There you go.
As my kids say to me, where are we going to hang that? So it never really...
In the hallway?
Well, that's what I thought, but obviously not. Anyway, let's talk about this air crash overnight in Canada, Toronto. A plane flipped at the Toronto Pearson International. Miraculously, 80 passengers and crew have survived, 18 injured, 3 in a critical condition.
Well, survivors are now sharing incredible footage of their escape. Let's take a look.
Everything, drop it. Come on. Don't take your video. Get on the way. On the way.
Holy oh my yo, I was just on this. Oh my God.
Well, that plane is upside down in the snow and the ice, if you are listening on the radio.
Well, just miraculously, just seeing those people emerge from it. We've got Simon Calder in the studio now, travel correspondent, to talk about this worrying trend. But it is amazing that plane is flipped and there are so far no fatalities.
It is, and thank goodness for the extraordinary work of the cabin crew evacuating that aircraft. If you ever, and the chances are extraordinarily low, if you ever find yourself in the position of having an emergency evacuation, please don't video it, just concentrate on getting out. That's the thing to do, and do not, as some of the people in those images showed, do not carry any cabin baggage. Just get yourself out, otherwise you will be obstructing other people. But absolutely, as you say, a miracle that people survived, but also a testament to the way that safety is engineered into aircraft. Of course, we don't know at this stage what happened to Flight 4819. It had taken off normally from Minneapolis, St. Paul, flew to Toronto, came into land. We do know that conditions were difficult. They'd had over the past few days a foot of snow. There was gusts in the forecast up to 40 miles an hour, which obviously is going to make things difficult. Confusingly, the Toronto Airport Fire Chief said there were no crosswinds at the time. We simply don't know about that. But what appears to have happened, looking at the only other case I've ever seen of this, which was in 1999, China Airlines flight from Bangkok to Hong Kong, which also flipped over very sadly. In that case, 3 people died. But the aircraft in that case, and I'm not saying it's the same in this one, came in and actually one wing touched the runway. That then broke off. The other wing is now providing lots of lift, and that forces the aircraft over. And again, in that case, almost everybody got out alive. Very sadly, 3 people died. In this case, there will be very, very good investigation by the Canadian authorities and indeed the US authorities to find out what happened.
Nonetheless, a worrying trend, Simon, the amount of plane crashes there's been in the past 6 months alone, all around the world, quite a few of them from American Airlines as well. Well,
it's important to keep things in perspective, and of course I would say that aviation in this decade is safer than it has ever been before. Absolutely. People are going to be getting the impression that flying is very dangerous. We saw the Christmas Day event where Azerbaijan Airlines flight was shot down by Russian anti-aircraft fire. We then had the terrible crash in Korea, where an aircraft just ploughed into a concrete barrier. Then the dreadful event on the 29th of January involving the Black Hawk helicopter and a similar plane to this one, actually, a CRJ commuter jet at Washington, D.C. Then there was a medical evacuation, then a small plane in Alaska, and now this. So people are going to say, I'm not getting on that plane. I've already seen lots of online comments saying I'm going by car next time. Please do not. You are far safer in an aircraft than in any other form of transport except possibly the railways. And as soon as you get into a car, you multiply your risks hugely.
Okay.
Well, Simon, please do stay with us. I know you'll be gauging reaction coming in and new information as we get it as to possible causes of what went wrong. So we'll hear from you again. But for the moment, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Now, a crisis in Europe is emerging as Germany rejects the UK's peace plans for Ukraine.
Now, this was after a summit of European leaders in Paris yesterday, and the Prime Minister reiterated that he is prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground in Ukraine if there is a lasting peace agreement.
It must play its role, and I'm prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground alongside others if there is a lasting peace agreement. But there must be a US backstop, because a US security guarantee is the only way to effectively deter Russia from attacking Ukraine again. So I will go to Washington next week to meet President Trump and to discuss what we see as the key elements of a lasting peace.
Well, meanwhile, the United States and Russia's most senior officials are set to meet in Saudi Arabia today after President Donald Trump announced peace talks with Russia.
Joining us now in the studio, we've got Robert Fox, the defence editor for the Evening Standard, and deputy editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers. Gentlemen, very good to see you. The Saudi meeting, what's going to happen there today?
Well, the Americans are downplaying the significance of it. They're saying that this is just an initial scoping out to see if Vladimir Putin is actually serious about stopping the fighting after an eventual deal. Putin's team is playing it up, saying that everything is going to be on the table. The entire future of Ukraine is going to be discussed here. So let's wait and see what comes out of it. I mean, the striking thing is who's not going to be there. Europe is pointedly not going to be there. Ukraine itself is not playing a role in these talks. And it seems as if that is potentially quite unsustainable.
Yeah, and Europe would have been hoping, with that emergency summit in Paris yesterday, Robert Fox, that they would have been able to put a united front to the US. But instead, we're seeing this split, aren't we, in what to do after Ukraine and Russia were to make a deal about a peacekeeping force.
It's a very odd one. I don't know what they really expected to come out of it. I think the split was obvious there from the beginning. Mr. Scholz, and I think we shouldn't be bigging up here, he's out of office, if the polls are right, within a week at the election at the weekend, and he is bound to say that. He would have committed early poll suicide, if I could put it like that, if he'd said, yeah, we're going in, the Bundeswehr is going to go in. What they're really looking for is to avoid a German veto. There are things that they will have factored in, and I'm going way down the line, like the veto from Hungary. That's only to be expected. I absolutely follow where we're going now. This is the preliminary of the preliminary, but it is a very big win for Putin. He's come in from the cold, he's got them talking, and Trump, I'm afraid, was talking the terms he wanted to be talked about initially, which is no NATO for Ukraine and gimme as much land as I can possibly get. Because if you read the small print, he'd been saying, yeah, we'll take the oblast that we've got, and they haven't got the whole of the Donbass yet. They've got a pretty substantial part of it, but we'd like a bit more of Zaporizhia and Kherson. And as we know from Trump, these areas are mineral rich, and behind that there is a big one too. What Russia would really want is to get their, in inverted commas, cheap gas flowing into Europe. And they've got two powerful lobbyists there, one Rome, the other Berlin. They absolutely see it as the lifeline to reviving their economy. So there's a lot to play, but it's going to be a long one and it's going to be quite tedious. I don't think it's going to be as long as the Vietnam talks, but I think it's going to be months and could very possibly, and I think the publics are not warned of this, it could be a year or so before this gets resolved.
Fraser, the German Chancellor's not too happy. He thinks that Keir Starmer has committed himself a bit too early here. He hasn't committed himself at all. I was just listening to what he's saying there, and he said, I am prepared to consider, and then there was a list of other conditions, if America's there, if.
Yeah.
There's no intention of sending any soldiers, any troops anywhere, but he wants to look like the big man with a big plan.
Yeah, this was his sort of faux Churchillian moment, I think. You know, the problem for Starmer and for the UK is that we don't really have the forces to back up that kind of commitment. You know, British Army, active duty personnel, that's set to fall below 70,000 soon, which will be the lowest level we've had since before the Napoleonic Wars. And a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine, a former head of the British Army said that would need 100,000 troops. Zelensky says he would need 200,000 Western troops. So, of course, we would need the help of our European allies, many of whom are not willing to give it, and the US, who, it seems, are not willing to give it either. So, you know, we could debate the rights and wrongs of this kind of, is it wise, is it sensible? But actually, it's not practical. It's probably not going to happen.
Right, OK. So much more to talk about to you two, but we can do that again at 7 o'clock this morning. So for the moment, Robert and Fraser, thank you both very much indeed.
Thank you.
Get involved in this, have your say. Let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom.
A new independent review into prisons has found sentences are getting longer, they say, thanks to political messaging about being tough on crime. It lays the blame on successive governments for the overcrowding in our prisons, describing ministers' handling as unstrategic and unsustainable.
The Vatican's given an update on Pope Francis's health. They say he will remain in hospital for as long as necessary. Last week, the 88-year-old was hospitalised with a respiratory tract infection. His condition's now stable, and apparently he's touched by the supportive messages from members of the public.
And as we've just been seeing, the Princess of Wales and her three little ones have showed off their artistic skills, releasing portraits of each other as part of Catherine's campaign to boost understanding of children's social skills. They're royal pictures as you've never seen them before, perhaps inspired by the Princess of Wales's recent visit to the National Portrait Gallery.
This whole prison question that we're asking today, I mean, I love this, that this review body has said the blame for people being in prison lies with the government and talking about getting tough with crime, which I thought was the whole idea about it. Maybe the thanks should be with the government. And what these bodies don't realise is people are quite happy through their taxes to pay for prison spaces. People want criminals in jail. That's why they want them. They want them off the streets. They don't want people out stealing your cars, breaking into your houses, committing all sorts of heinous crimes against young people and women. And they're very happy to put them away, lock them up and throw the key away. So what is all this complaining about? Is prison still the best way to teach criminals a lesson? And we've made that our question of the day in our poll of the day.
We have, yes. If you want to get involved, just scan the QR code on your screen now, or you can head to gbnews.com/poll. As always, the final results will be announced in Martin Daubney's show later.
We're going to talk about this throughout the programme today. Your views on prison, how necessary is it, or are you against prison? Do you think it works? But does the message have to be there? Has there to be a deterrent? OK, have your say. Let's get the weather update. Alex Deakin, good morning.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Bit of a damp start for Northern Ireland and Scotland, where there's a bit of snow falling too. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll be a dry day, and for many, quite a bright day. It's not just snow, there's some freezing rain also across parts of southern Scotland, so it could be icy here for the morning commute. The damp weather slowly fizzles out as we go through the day. Bit of snow even at lower levels, but most of it will be over the hills. The rain and drizzle easing off across Northern Ireland. Staying quite windy here, quite a brisk breeze along the south coast of England, South Wales. The brightest skies in the east, but temperatures again struggling here despite a bit of weak sunshine. 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, a little milder further west, but for most still a pretty chilly day, and again quite quickly turning quite cold this evening. Still the odd little bit of rain and drizzle across northern Scotland into this evening, but generally it is turning drier here, staying fairly cloudy and getting quite gusty, particularly for Northern Ireland, the west coast of Scotland. Brisk and cold breeze continues to come in off the near continent, and with some clear skies over central and eastern England, we will again have a frost forming through the night. Also through the night, the winds will strengthen down to the southwest as the cloud starts to increase as we go through the early hours here. Elsewhere, though, generally staying dry with a mixture of high cloud and clear skies. Temperatures will be falling down to freezing, degree or so below in rural spots. But further west, notice we should stay a few degrees above freezing because it is slowly turning milder here. Milder but also wetter, quite a damp morning for Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, and that rain spreading into Northern Ireland quite quickly too. So a damp start here. That rain will trickle into other parts of Wales, southwest Scotland, but tended to fizzle out somewhat as it does so. For many central and eastern parts, it's another dry day tomorrow. Still bright and still on the chilly side, but it is turning milder from the west.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
There was a big test exercise on Everton Football Club's new stadium last night. Just testing it out. Doesn't it look grand?
Oh,
absolutely beautiful. Really, really nice. And it'll be in action for next season. Talking about that and lots more with Paul Coyte after the break.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
I'm here in M. Manzi's, which is now the oldest surviving pie and eel shop in London. It's been open since 1892, and as you said in the intro there, it's really sort of a dying breed. One of the sister sites of this shop, the distant relative, owned one of their own other shops in Deptford, and that closed on Saturday for the very last time. They've been open for over 100 years. So you clearly see that there's a declining, not necessarily a declining interest, that's a wrong way of putting it, but it's nowhere near as prevalent as it used to be. This was a staple of the East End, and it's now gone from about 300 shops in the Victorian times to under 40 now, and it's declining further and further. Now, also, a couple of months ago, I was in Basildon talking about a similar story with Richard Holden, trying to create a protected status for pie and mash to prevent sort of copycats from stealing the recipe and making it less authentic. So that is ongoing. There's clearly interest in it, and tourists enjoy coming in here. Hopefully, I'll get one of my own pies shortly and have another taste. But it would be a shame to see this go. It's not just about the pie and the taste and the flavour, which is fantastic. It's also about history and community. A lot of people come in here as regulars, so we're just shining a light on a crucial part of London's historic economy. It's a bit of good fun, and it certainly tastes very good as well. Demographics have changed, yeah, and actually a lot of the ownership, the people who would run these shops traditionally over the last few decades are moving out towards the west, they're moving towards Kent, they're moving towards Sussex. So there are demographic changes, and no doubt that is influencing it as well. And as I say, it's important to do stories like this just to remind people of London's history and why it's important to support these local businesses.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I watched a cracker of a game last night in the Championship. Leeds United at home at Elland Road against Sunderland. Top of the table clash. Mr. Paul with the result.
Did you stay up to see the final goal go in as well? Because that was late.
90 plus 5 minutes.
So you should have been in bed by then, surely, shouldn't you? 95th minute. So that would have been...
10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Eamonn, that's naughty.
95th minute. So you didn't realise we'd be on your case. We'd be on your case. You're a naughty boy staying up so late. Leeds 2, Sunderland 1. So Leeds are back to the top of the Championship. Sheffield United are up there as well. And they play each other next week. Now, Pascal Struijk, who came on as a substitute, it's 12 minutes from time, got the equaliser, then scored the winner in the 95th minute. But
he was the change. He was what was needed.
Yeah, super sub. But you know the manager of Leeds, Daniel Farke. Now, Daniel Farke got a yellow card for over-celebrating when the goal went in. And the thing is, he's now going to be banned for the next game, so he's an unlucky Daniel, isn't he, really? I feel sorry for him over that.
Celebration. I'd like to see him why people want to suck the enjoyment out of football.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Where's the line of over-enjoyment?
Well, that's a very good question.
It is. Where is the line? I don't know. It's probably a fist pump, maybe is a little too much, jumping maybe onto the pitch, something but, as long as it's happy and it's enjoying and it's not threatening to anybody else, you should be able to enjoy a last-minute goal like that.
And especially how he turned that game. They were 1-0 down for so much of the game, and then to hit a winner like that, absolutely great.
First time they've been 1 down at half-time since September as well, is my fact for you for the day. What about Yannick Sinner? You know, we've been talking about Yannick Sinner, and we did yesterday.
The drugs boy.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting one because so many other different tennis players are now saying what they think about the situation. There's Sinner that we can see. So that very briefly, Costa Bowl was found in his system where it was all down to a physiotherapist that was rubbing his legs and he apparently had it on his hands. It's happened twice. So he's been banned for 3 months. The thing is, the controversy about this is that his ban starts today, and it's like Liam Brodie, who's one of our tennis players, said it's time to impact his career as little as possible. It's like a Premier League footballer being banned over the summer because there are no major tournaments. So he'll go, I'll take the ban, that'll be fine, it's done and dusted. Novak Djokovic weighed in as well. This is what he had to say yesterday.
The majority of the players that I've talked to in the locker room, not just in the last few days, but also last few months, that are not happy with the way this whole process has been handled. The majority of the players doesn't feel that it's fair. Majority of the players feel like there is favorism happening. It seems like it appears that you can almost affect the outcome if you're a top player, if you have access to the top lawyers and whatnot.
That's the point, is that top lawyers and what he can afford. There's been other tennis players banned for 18 months because they've had something in the system, and even if it's not their fault, but because they haven't been able to spend millions on lawyers to go fight with the Court of Arbitration for Sport, etc., they have to serve out the ban, whereas someone like Sinner comes along and they go, well, you know what, he's the world number one.
The mood seems to be in the game that a lot of people have their doubts about the sincerity or the truthfulness of his defence.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, who knows? We don't know. We don't know how true it is, but the thing is, if there's so much money that he can afford lawyers, then there's also a lot of money with staff that will make sure that nothing illegal gets in his system. And it did, and you've got to pay the price.
Celtic, will they pay the price? They're 2-1 down in aggregate against Bayern. Champions League tonight, they go to Germany.
Yeah, they're 2-1 down, so they go to Bayern. It's going to be tough, isn't it? Don't you think?
Yeah.
It's going to be tough to go to the Allianz in Bayern Munich and face them. Your friend, you can friend of Brendan Rodgers, don't you? You like Brendan?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think he's saying that no fear. You just got to go out and go for it. Here's Brendan.
You come to this level and you have to play without any fear. I think there's worse things in football that can happen than lose, or worse things in life that can happen than lose a game of football. So for us, we want to ensure that when we come in after the game, if we don't go through, we've given it absolutely everything.
That's it. Got to go for it. Simple as that. Don't sit there and think, well, we'll defend. Go for it. Nothing to lose. You never know.
Could we look at the Everton's new football stadium?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Ellie's got a family connection with.
Yes.
She knew somebody that put bricks on it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What's the story?
My fiancé's company was involved in.
Oh, really?
That, yeah.
So are you thinking that there's free tickets going around already?
Well, I hope so. I was going to ask you what the hospitality situation was.
The hospitality
should be
because, I'm only interested if there's good wine.
There are 32 lounges.
Oh, that's a good start.
With all the business. Yeah. See, the thing is, there it is, it's Bramley Moor Dock. Now, what they did, and Tottenham Hotspur did this when they opened their stadium. You have to have 3 test events before you're allowed to actually open it and have a capacity of 52,000 there. So they did that yesterday. They had the test event, which was the under-18s, Everton against Wigan. You know, there was a kid that played for Wigan who was a Liverpool fan. I mean, was there any need for that? Doing the sign of 6 to show, oh, we've won 6 titles. It's like, oh, come on. But anyway, everybody had a great time. It seems that every Everton fan that went there loved it because it's a big thing. 119 years at Goodison Park. They're moving across over to the dock. It's not that far away, but it is somewhere different.
Emotional, though, isn't it?
Of course it is, because you have your entire life watching football at the same place, and when you leave it, I mean, it's the 19th century going into the 21st century, but they're going to keep the. You know what I really love, and when I've been to Goodison Park, and I love the Z-Cars theme that they use. And there's something about it. And strangely, Watford use it as well. Do you know Watford use it as well?
Yeah, I do.
And it starts off the brum, bum, 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 and you hear the drums. And then the team comes out and it gets their hairs on the back of your neck. So when it's at the new stadium, they're going to still play that. 52,000 people. Fans are going to love it. And 133 years on from Goodison Park, it's going to be a huge success. So second test event still to come.
Well, it looks amazing.
It really does.
Time for the Great British Giveaway. If you want to be one of 2 new winners, here's how.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is, 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. 1 entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A85 is closed in both directions between Connell and Ganavan after an accident. The diversion route is 84 miles long. On the M1 in Derbyshire, it's very busy southbound because of roadworks between junctions 29 and 28 near Mansfield. In London, the A118 is closed in both directions along the high road at Seven Kings because of a fire. In Surrey, the A25 is closed each way along the Oxford Road in Godstone because of subsidence. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Trains have been stopped between Horsham and Barnham, where overnight engineering works have overrun. And in Cornwall on the A30, the westbound exit at the Scoria turnoff at Red Ruth is closed, where overnight roadworks have overrun. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Newspaper editor David Wooding joins us now, and former MP Ian Paisley Jr. Very good to see you, boys.
Morning.
Morning. Good for being here. We're going to start, David, with Keir Starmer, and he's been very big to start talking up what Britain is going to do in any post-Ukraine conflict. And I don't believe a word that he says. And he says he'll consider things and he'll do that. But, you know, he's trying to act the big I am with this. And we haven't got any soldiers to play with, really, have we?
Well, no, he's trying to get on the front foot here, saying that Britain will play a lead role in any peace initiative that's thrashed out between Russia and Ukraine, or probably between Russia and America, to be honest. The problem is he's upset some of the European colleagues. They're trying to put on a united front here, and Olaf Scholz, the Chancellor from Germany, is already saying, you know, this is completely premature, highly inappropriate, and he's a little bit irritated by it, which is not the best start to the big meetings that the European leaders have had.
Well, he walked out yesterday, didn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. On top of that is, how is he going to do it? I mean, it's going to cost £12 billion.
He's not going to do it. That's how he's going to do it. He's not going to do it. He said yesterday, I am prepared to consider. And then there was a whole list of conditions set against what he was prepared to do. Yeah. Do you believe he's going to send British troops in there?
Russia, Korea, Iran, China, they're laughing at the West this morning. I mean, they had this round table, Europe had this round table, they were going to be part of this peace process. And within 20 minutes, the Germans are out. Normally the French surrender first, but on this occasion, the Germans walked out. And it was just really, really bad. I think it looked terrible. And for the Prime Minister to say that we will put peacekeeping troops in, if Russia then breaks the peace, those troops become a target. We then walk into a war that we didn't need to be part of. This is talks about talks. We shouldn't get too excited. Let Trump do his piece, and then let's take it from there. But my biggest concern was Zelensky in Munich. He just went far too far.
OK, well, Ian, David, do stay with us. We're going to be back with you in just a few moments' time, but we are joined now by the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning. I'm not sure if you were just listening to our conversation, but we were talking about Sir Keir Starmer in Paris yesterday, that emergency summit to talk about Ukraine and Russia. And it appears that Sir Keir Starmer's comments about a peacekeeping force and being willing to put British troops on the ground in Ukraine has upset the Germans. Olaf Scholz, the German Chancellor, said that the suggestion was completely premature, highly inappropriate, and he was irritated. He walked out of that talk yesterday. Has Sir Keir Starmer's comments divided Europe?
Well, I think it was really important that European leaders came together in Paris yesterday to discuss this issue, because whatever happens in the next couple of days, weeks, months, we need to find a way to create a lasting and enduring peace for Ukraine. What we can't have is a situation where there is a temporary pause in hostilities, say, which allows Putin to return with a territorial incursion into a sovereign country, which leads to the resumption of aggression. And so I think what Keir was doing there was talking to other European leaders. He will be also talking to the US president in the coming days, and he has been clear that we are willing to consider playing our role in the future security of Ukraine, but that must be done in partnership with the US. I think all of us have been absolutely horrified by the bloodshed and the war that has been raging on the European continent over the last few years, and I think the Prime Minister in this government is clear that this isn't just an issue for the people of Ukraine. This is an issue of European security, and as a consequence, it's an issue of national security for us here in the UK.
And when Sir Keir Starmer meets President Trump next week in Washington, will he commit to increased defence spending?
So we have commissioned a strategic defence review. It was one of the first things we committed to when we were elected in July of last year, and that's to look at our capabilities and the amount of money we need to be spending to ensure we protect the national security. We have committed to reaching 2.5% of GDP being spent on defence as soon as the financial and economic situation allows. We have also said that we recognise that Europe has to do more to step up to provide its own security, and so those will be the sorts of things that the Prime Minister will be discussing with the President of the United States when he meets with him next week.
And will we need to raise taxes in order to increase defence spending? Because economists writing in the Telegraph today have warned the Chancellor will have to raise taxes by an extra £12 billion if she wants to raise defence spending by just to 2.5% of GDP. Some calls from around the world to increase it to 5%.
So I'm not going to get ahead of the spending review. The spending review is the process by which the Chancellor determines what amount of money is going to be available to be spent on public services, on our schools, our hospitals, local authorities, and the amount of money that is spent on defence and our military. As I said, we are conducting the strategic defence review. That will be looking at our capabilities and our requirements, and the security of the British people is first and foremost in all of this, and so I know that both the Prime Minister and the Chancellor will do what it takes. Indeed, we have done in the last few years, haven't we? When President Zelensky has said that he needed the UK and other European countries to step up to the plate to enable him to deal with this Russian aggression, we have done, and we have said that we will continue to do everything that it takes to ensure that Ukraine is in a position of strength in any discussions that happen going forward.
Can I ask you about the sentencing review report that's out today? David Gauke says that Labour's sentencing review says knee-jerk policies enforced by political parties competing to introduce ever longer sentences has brought the prison system dangerously close to collapse. What's your reaction to this report?
So David Gauke is a very respected former Conservative Justice Secretary who was asked by the new Justice Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, to conduct a sentencing review given the appalling state of our prisons. We were running out of prison capacity on the first day after the general election because Rishi Sunak and the previous Conservative government ducked the difficult decisions. They knew that our prisons were running at 99% capacity, and it obviously led to our government having to take a decision to make some emergency releases. Never again can we be put in that position where the police may not have been able to make arrests because there simply wouldn't have been space in the prisons to deal with the prisoners that then ended up there.
So what's the answer to that, Heidi? What's the answer to that? Don't send people to prison.
Prison spaces.
Is that what Gauke's saying? Is Gauke saying don't send people to prison?
To the extra 500 spaces that the Conservative
Heidi,
government
is Gauke saying don't send people to prison then?
And 2024.
Oh,
and so we will,
Yeah. Heidi, we're just saying, so what is Gauke saying?
With my earpiece.
Hello? Heidi, what is Gauke saying? Is he saying don't send people to prison?
Back in, sorry.
OK, right. Thanks very much indeed. We'll leave
really
it there.
sorry, Eamonn.
No, I understand. Don't worry.
No problem. I'm sorry about that.
We just need to ask you about the railway scheme that you're here to talk about today. Can you? I'm just checking that you can still hear us. Heidi, can you hear us? No.
Ian Paisley, you see this whole thing about Gauke. I just want to say about prisons. What politicians and official bodies often fail to see is that the general public want people sent to prison. Why do they want people sent to prison? Because they want their streets safer and they like the idea of a bit of vengeance on people who break the rules. Why doesn't that message get home? Spend money on prisons.
Well, look, I think you're all right. People want to see adequate punishment to fit the crime. And if that means a sentence in a prison, then yes, the prisons should be fit and ready for purpose. This is a crisis that's been building for years in our prisons. Underfunding, prison officers not properly resourced and paid, and our courts using sometimes prisons as a dumping ground and sometimes avoiding them. We need to have a proper prisons strategy, and I think the government has got a really bad deal here on what they're going to do with our prisons. There's no easy answer to this. We build more prisons and to bang up more people because some of the programmes of resettling offenders and trying to retrain them and stop them from reoffending just clearly have not worked over the years.
David, what's the answer to the prison situation?
Well, a couple of previous politicians have said the right things on this. I mean, Tony Blair notoriously or famously said tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. So you have to deal with criminals severely, but you also have to tackle the root causes of crime. And Michael Howard, the former Tory leader, he came out with two words: prison works. And it does work. People, like you rightly say, people want... We're going to have to build more prisons. Keep prisons being free shows that we're not fighting crime enough because there's more crime. And it also shows that we're not got enough prisons. So you either fight crime and build more prisons.
Well, folks, they've had their say. You have your say. Please do get in touch, be part of the whole debate, and we'll be back with David and Ian very shortly, right after this break.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
A brisk wind continues to blow over the Canaries, but it will be easing as we head through the latter part of this week. Still a few showers across Spain and Portugal. They will also be fading. Much of the east coast of Spain seeing plenty of sunshine along with the Balearics and Sardinia, but a few scattered showers over southern parts of mainland Italy, and looking fairly showery in Greece once more. And with the winds coming down from the north, it is chilly and, if anything, getting colder in Santorini through the rest of this week. Goodbye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Lee Anderson's Real World, Fridays from 7 p.m.
Getting into medicine at a very early age, you had an interest when you were really, really young, didn't you?
I did. I decided to go to medicine when I was 8. And that was based on the stories my father used to tell me about my grandfather, who I never met, because my grandfather died when he was 11.
Yeah.
And he was in the military, and he was stationed up in the Himalayas, and he was a doctor in the military. And not only did he serve in the military, but he also served his patients. And he served them to the degree where he would go out and he'd take them supplies, and he'd really look after them and make sure that they were not just well, but could live and survive. And it was on a day when he was out there helping his patients. There was a storm up in the Himalayas.
Wow.
And he was out there taking blankets and clothes and food up to them. And on the way back, as he was coming down the Himalayas, there was a landslide which took his Jeep over the edge, and he perished in that. So he gave his life to his service. And it was these stories about my grandfather, what he did and how he helped people, that really inspired me to follow in his footsteps. Not necessarily to go into the military, but to go into medicine.
But he's left a wonderful legacy, because fast forward, you came to this country when you was 4, and you've studied medicine.
Yep.
You do, we were talking earlier about DNA. You're looking at DNA, looking at people's DNA. You can do profiles on people, predict. Well, you can actually say with some accuracy where they've lived in the past, what jobs they've done, and what medically may happen to them in the future.
Yeah. And I think, over the last, we've been looking at the gene. There was a Human Genome Project last century which finished.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
David Wooding and Ian Paisley going through the papers. Ian, do you rely on the sniff test when it comes to food, for instance?
I don't look at the dates, but I kind of, I'll do. I'll be all right. But I've got a stomach like a cement mixer. Oh. So I'm kind of okay on these things. But, a lot of people aren't.
No.
I mean, my kids, for example, they look at the dates and say, that's out of date. No, it's not. Smell it, look at it. But
yeah, this is front page of the Daily Telegraph, David, and it's just...
Generation Z wastes food over a best before date. It's a misunderstanding of what the date on packaged food is actually about.
It quite literally means, doesn't it? It is best before that date.
The very, very best date.
The very, very best.
Yeah. My daughter, for instance, she will not touch anything if it's past its sell-by date or its best before date.
Yeah, see, I'm bad
we
at
try to
this.
explain, it doesn't mean it's off, and she just won't touch it.
Yeah.
So this.
But it's a real waste of food.
Right.
It's putting costs up for consumers. Unless people are educated in this is going to continue to drive prices, and people need to actually wise up and realise.
And when you look in supermarkets, if you're buying a ready packed salad or something, it's only got about a day's grace on it.
Yeah,
that is so true. And fruit.
Very, very true. Very true. And David, on that point, when it comes to eating habits, the Star reporting today that people are enjoying milkshakes, but what they enjoy, the combination is they dip chips in their milkshakes.
Yes, apparently half of 18 to 24-year-olds fancy dipping chips in milkshakes. Favourite flavours, strawberry and vanilla, apparently.
Dip chips.
Dip chips in milkshakes. Yeah, I'm not sure about this one.
Maybe they're pregnant. Might be one of those things,
Could be.
But it is the sweet, salty combination. Sometimes that really works.
Well, I don't know. This is a Daily Star story, and it also says that they're moving away from vegan diets as well, which is quite fascinating. Because the market has fallen. It's lost £30 million worth of sales. This is because of the fears of ultra-processed food and the expense of buying vegan options. So interesting what people are doing with
now,
food.
the other thing we're moving away from, Ian, the Mirror is reporting today that local accents are dying out. And if that was the case, I think it's part of the beauty of where we all live. And what do you think of this one?
Yeah, the Daily Mirror story about the death of local accents. Well, at this table, they're clearly wrong. You know, we've got a Scouser and 2 Ulstermen, and then we've got a posh girl from Essex. You know, I mean, so this table's okay. Accents are the tapestry of this nation, and they do make it interesting, and I think it says a lot about the country if you can keep the accents. Yeah. You don't want that monotone voice.
I like the Daily Star headline on this story, which is local accents dying out, that must be codding.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, gentlemen. Good to see you both. See you in the next hour. Let's have a check.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A bit of a damp start for Northern Ireland and Scotland, where there's a bit of snow falling too. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll be a dry day, and for many, quite a bright day. It's not just snow, some freezing rain also across parts of southern Scotland, so it could be icy here for the morning commute. The damp weather slowly fizzles out as we go through the day. A bit of snow even at lower levels, but most of it will be over the hills. The rain and drizzle easing off across Northern Ireland. Staying quite windy here, quite a brisk breeze along the south coast of England, South Wales. The brightest skies in the east, but temperatures again struggling here despite a bit of weak sunshine. 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, a little milder further west, but for most still a pretty chilly day, and again quite quickly turning quite cold this evening. Still the odd little bit of rain and drizzle across northern Scotland into this evening, but generally it is turning drier here, staying fairly cloudy and getting quite gusty, particularly for Northern Ireland, the west coast of Scotland. Brisk and cold breeze continues to come in off the near continent, and with some clear skies over central and eastern England, we will again have a frost forming through the night. Also through the night, the winds will strengthen down to the southwest as the cloud starts to increase as we go through the early hours here. Elsewhere, though, generally staying dry with a mixture of high cloud and clear skies. Temperatures will be falling down to freezing, degree or so below in rural spots. But further west, notice we should stay a few degrees above freezing because it is slowly turning milder here. Milder but also wetter, quite a damp morning for Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, and that rain spreading into Northern Ireland quite quickly too. So a damp start here. That rain will trickle into other parts of Wales, southwest Scotland, but tended to fizzle out somewhat as it does so. For many central and eastern parts, it's another dry day tomorrow. Still bright and still on the chilly side, but it is turning milder from the west.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A85 is closed each way between Oban and Connell after an accident last night. The diversion route is over 80 miles. Now, trains have been stopped between Liverpool Lime Street and Liverpool South Parkway because of a faulty train. Delays of up to 40 minutes between Liverpool Lime Street and Runcorn. On the M1 in Derbyshire, there are southbound delays because of roadworks between junctions 29 and 28 near Mansfield. In Nottinghamshire on the A46, there's a lane closed southbound where someone's broken down off the A1 near Newark. There are delays of up to half an hour to trains between Shrewsbury and Wolverhampton because of a shortage of staff. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour, and queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. In Surrey, the A25 is closed each way on Oxford Road in Godstone because of subsidence, and trains have been stopped between Billingshurst and Barnham, where overnight engineering works have overrun.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month for another chance to win Text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good morning. Another aeroplane crash.
A Delta Airlines flight crashes at Toronto Airport and dramatically flips over.
We just landed. Our plane crashed.
Miraculously, all 80 passengers are still alive. No fatalities yet. But is this a sign air travel is becoming more dangerous?
Crisis in Europe as Germany storms out of a last-minute summit. The US and Russia prepare to negotiate in Saudi Arabia. What does this mean for Ukraine?
At stake is not just the future of Ukraine, it is an existential question for Europe as a whole.
Well, earlier we put it to the Transport Secretary, Heidi Alexander. What is it that the UK wants?
What we can't have is a situation where there is a temporary pause in hostilities, say, which allows Putin to return with a territorial incursion into a sovereign country.
Are prison sentences too long? We'll be debating that after a damning new report says successive governments have worsened the overcrowding crisis.
John Burkill, Methanol is the Prime Man in Sheffield, and I have at the moment there's 1.1 million for Macmillan.
Well, he's known as the man with the pram in Sheffield. He's also got peculiar green hair, but he is a legend. He's dedicated his whole life to raising over £1 million for cancer support. We honour him this morning.
And finally, royal portraits like you've never seen before. Can you guess the artist behind these drawings?
And in the sport this morning, Novak Djokovic jumps on the Yannick Sinner 3-month drug banned bandwagon. Celtic head to Munich tonight with a minor alpine mountain to climb, and Everton have used their shiny new stadium for the very first time.
It is turning milder through the rest of this week, but it is taking its time. Another chilly one today, and there's a bit of snow and ice in the forecast this morning. Join me later for a full forecast.
So, hello there on this Tuesday morning, wherever you're watching, wherever you're listening from. A very good morning to you. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
We want to start with pictures coming in from Canada and Toronto, where a Delta Airlines plane has crashed, flipped over at Pearson International, and miraculously the 80 people on board, passengers and crew, have all survived so far. 3, though, are in a critical condition.
Well, survivors are now sharing incredible footage of their escape. Let's take a look.
Everything, drop it! Come on! Don't take no video! That's on the way! On the way! Holy
Holy Holy Oh my Yo, I was just on this. Oh my God.
Incredible stuff to see there. Let's go to travel correspondent Simon Calder, who joins us in the studio now. And that is every passenger's nightmare, isn't it?
Well, everybody walked away from this crash, or at least was able to escape the aircraft alive, which is, I've just been talking to a US commercial pilot, a remarkable tribute to the training, to the equipment that they used, and to the fact that that aircraft are designed to be survivable. Going back 20 years to the last such event at Toronto, this was an Air France plane with over 300 people on board, which came into land too fast, went off the end of the runway. There was a fire. Everybody escaped from that as well. So, yes, these scenes are desperately alarming.
I mean, to evacuate a plane, Simon, is dangerous enough. That's one thing. But to evacuate it upside down, incredible.
Just imagine, there you are. You've got your seatbelt on, of course, but there you are upside down. You've got to self-rescue from that position, which you're, of course, not trained to. Everybody should be watching the emergency drill at the start of their flight, but it doesn't cover here's what to do if you're hanging upside down. Clearly, people were able to do that. The cabin crew, from what I've seen, did a fantastic job. Regrettable, even though these are very dramatic pictures that we've been seeing, that people were actually filming inside the cabin, and also that some people were taking their belongings with them. In a situation like this, just get out. Otherwise, you might impede other people, and that could be fatal.
Now, is air travel getting more dangerous? Because we have heard about a number of plane crashes, haven't we, in the past few months? What's going on?
If you go back to Christmas Day, of course, people are going to be thinking, hang on, we had the Azerbaijan aircraft shot down by the Russians. There was then, a few days later, a terrible crash in Korea where an aircraft basically just landed at high speed and ploughed into a concrete barrier. A terrible tragedy there. We then saw 29th of January at Washington, D.C., an aircraft very similar to this, a CRJ commuter jet coming in and colliding with a Black Hawk helicopter just before landing. And yeah, people are going to decide, well, I'm not going to fly. That would be a really, really bad move. Yes, of course, all of these events are tragic, and you know, our thoughts are, of course, with the people who are critically injured in this incident, but flying remains so much safer than any other form of transport.
But I think the thing is, Simon, there's a lot of concern in the USA in particular that President Trump's involved in a lot of civil service jobs, cutting them, and a lot of those jobs work in the federal aviation area. The FAA would have staff who maintain critical air traffic control infrastructure despite 4 deadly crashes since Trump was inaugurated, and he's still laying people off.
Well, yes, what is happening in terms of the Federal Aviation Administration, which is the same as the Civil Aviation Authority here, is troubling, but there is not a single captain, not a single pilot who would operate if they did not think it was safe to do so. So there is no sudden increase in risk. This decade is the safest for aviation we have ever seen. And the overall trend with aviation is to get safer and safer.
Well, my friend, the thing that I'm delighted at reporting this story is that no fatalities, that people have walked away, that this has been a rescue mission rather than a disaster we're reporting on.
Very much so. There's huge disruption, of course. We had a couple of British Airways flights. One of them was immediately behind this aircraft, and they obviously diverted to another Canadian airport. And then the next British Airways flight from Heathrow to Toronto actually got halfway across the Atlantic, just south of Greenland, and it was told to turn around, and it landed back at Heathrow just after midnight this morning. Of course, no risk to any aircraft there. Aviation in the UK and Ireland remains safer than anywhere else on the planet.
Good to hear. We've got to leave it there, my friend. Thank you very much indeed for keeping us posted and right up to date on that situation. Thank you.
Now, 8 minutes past 7, a crisis in Europe is emerging as Germany rejects the UK's peace plans for Ukraine.
Speaking after a summit of European leaders yesterday, the Prime Minister reiterated that he is prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground in Ukraine if there is a lasting peace agreement.
Europe must play its role, and I'm prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground alongside others if there is a lasting peace agreement. But there must be a US backstop, because a US security guarantee is the only way to effectively deter Russia from attacking Ukraine again. So I will go to Washington next week to meet President Trump and to discuss what we see as the key elements of a lasting peace.
Well, meanwhile, the United States and Russia's most senior officials are set to meet in Saudi Arabia today after President Donald Trump announced peace talks with Russia.
Joining us now, Deputy Editor of Spiked, Fraser Myers, on this one. And then we've got Defence Editor of the Evening Standard, Robert Fox. Fraser, for you, first of all, what do you make of this?
Well, I'm not surprised by Olaf Scholz rejecting Keir Starmer's plan. He's got an election at the moment. Germany is so much more divided on the question of Ukraine than we are over here in Britain. Many people in Germany want to make nice with Russia. They think, you know, they want to get the gas taps flowing again. The German economy and heavy industry has really, really suffered since the Ukraine war began. Now, we might say that's unprincipled, but that's their position and we should have known that's coming. It's also Spain and Poland disagree with Keir Starmer. And, you know, what's necessary, if this idea is ever going to come off, there would need to be somewhere between 100,000, 200,000 troops in Ukraine. The British Army only has about 75,000 troops. That's only set to go down below 70,000 soon. Even with the participation of France and other European countries, it's just very difficult to see how a peacekeeping force could be maintained. This is why Starmer later on, after, you know, he started off the day yesterday with his piece in the Telegraph, summoning his inner Churchill, talking about how we were going to stand up to Putin almost alone. And now he is having to admit that actually, yes, without a US peace guarantee, this offer is kind of worthless.
What about these talks in Saudi Arabia today? Because there's obviously concern that if Putin emerges bullish from these preliminary talks, then obviously the likes of Poland and the Baltic states will be feeling really exposed, thinking, well, it gives him time to regroup and then maybe try again.
Yeah, that's the real danger with any peace or a ceasefire, that gives Putin the chance to rearm. I mean, we know that he is looking to expand the military. The Russian economy is on a total war footing at the moment. And actually, you know, the Telegraph's reporting that some of Putin's demands are actually the removal of NATO troops from Poland and many Eastern European countries. Now, obviously, that is unacceptable, but it does indication. I think a red line for him would be putting British troops or other European troops in Ukraine. So how it actually matches up with these peace talks is a bit of a mystery. But the talks are happening simultaneously. You know, Europe is not invited to the Russia-US peace talks in the first place.
Or Ukraine.
Or Ukraine, either.
Well, let's get Robert Fox's take on all of this. Do you think you're going to see British boots on the ground in Ukraine, and if so, in what capacity?
Let's throw away the cliches. You're going to see British troops involved in some peacekeeping operation, I would think, within the next 2 or 3 years. This is the beginning of the beginning. All these things start this way. I'm thinking of a thing that this resembles very much UNPROFOR in Bosnia, which ran through Croatia from 1991 to 1995, where it was run by a command, really, shared between the Brits and the French. And this is what's going to happen this time. I want to leap ahead, and something that's not been mentioned. It will only have a credential and credibility if it conforms to a UN mandate. They got into a terrible mess over this in Kosovo, but it has to be underpinned. This was the basis of the Tony Blair doctrine, you may remember, and funnily enough, Starmer's key thinker on this, it seems, see him walking out with him from the Elysee Palace, is Tony Blair's right-hand man, Jonathan Powell. I think that we're being much too pessimistic. Yes, the army is in a poor state. The army isn't ready to fight a major war, as John Healey said. But funnily enough, I think the armed services have played their cards very well by not blabbing too much. And I think they're going to get a lot more than would have appeared only a few weeks ago in the Strategic Defence Review. That is the political problem this week for Starmer. He has made an offer. He has understood, finally, that if you're going to have a foreign policy, you must be able to, the awful, it's not a cliche, it's a real phrase, you have to be able to project power and utilise force, and your force has to be credible. So this is where the argument that's been pouring in like an avalanche from Rachel Reeves in accounts, from the Department of Accounts, Rachel Reeves of Accounts in the Treasury, who have been in the catbird seat thinking they could run defence and security policy. I think it's all to play for there. I think we're in the foothills of this. There are so many things that have to move, and there are a lot of things that Putin wants that actually Trump really doesn't want. And one of those is cheap gas. Because if the cheap gas flows, then this killing that has been made by the US and Qatar with liquid natural gas, LNG, goes. There's a lot of parts moving in this, and I fear that we're going to have a grumbling appendix-type war in Eastern Europe over Ukraine for some time to come, and I think that's why I think powers like Poland and the Nordics and the Baltics, who are becoming a coherent bloc now, are very good to be cautious about this. We haven't got a blueprint. It would have been amazing if a blueprint came out from the Elysee talks. But I think people are beginning to understand where they stand. And Fraser is absolutely right about the ambivalence of Germany, and it's going to be a heck of a problem throughout this, because there's an element, and it's the far right and the far left in Germany meet, and they are pro-Russian and they are anti-Ukraine.
Final word, Fraser?
Yeah, I think, well, it's Europe's wake-up call, isn't it? We've had a bit of a holiday from history, sheltering under the US power umbrella, military umbrella, and now difficult choices have to be made. OK,
gentlemen, thank you both very much indeed. Please do have your say. You know how to get in touch, and we will reflect those views throughout the programme this morning. Let's get your weather update. Good morning, Alex Deakin.
A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. A bit of a damp start for Northern Ireland and Scotland, where there's a bit of snow falling too. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll be a dry day, and for many, quite a bright day. It's not just snow, some freezing rain also across parts of southern Scotland, so it could be icy here for the morning commute. The damp weather slowly fizzles out as we go through the day. Bit of snow even at lower levels, but most of it will be over the hills. The rain and drizzle easing off across Northern Ireland. Staying quite windy here, quite a brisk breeze along the south coast of England, South Wales. The brightest skies in the east, but temperatures again struggling here despite a bit of weak sunshine. 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, a little milder further west, but for most still a pretty chilly day, and again quite quickly turning quite cold this evening. Still the odd little bit of rain and drizzle across northern Scotland into this evening, but generally it is turning drier here, staying fairly cloudy and getting quite gusty, particularly for Northern Ireland, the west coast of Scotland. Brisk and cold breeze continues to come in off the near continent, and with some clear skies over central and eastern England, we will again have a frost forming through the night. Also through the night, the winds will strengthen down to the southwest as the cloud starts to increase as we go through the early hours here. Elsewhere, though, generally staying dry with a mixture of high cloud and clear skies. Temperatures will be falling down to freezing, degree or so below in rural spots. But further west, notice we should stay a few degrees above freezing because it is slowly turning milder here. Milder but also wetter, quite a damp morning for Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, and that rain spreading into Northern Ireland quite quickly too. So a damp start here. That rain will trickle into other parts of Wales, southwest Scotland, but tended to fizzle out somewhat as it does so. For many central and eastern parts, it's another dry day tomorrow. Still bright and still on the chilly side, but it is turning milder from the west.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Now, if you want to be one of 2 brand new winners of our great British giveaway...
I do.
Yeah, you could win a new iPhone, shopping vouchers and £10,000 in tax-free cash. Here are all of the details that you need.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Let's take a break. Still to come, prison overcrowding. Who's to blame? Is it politicians trying to prove that they're tough on crime? Well, we're debating that. We want your views on that next.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Lately, it's getting much better. The people getting more educated in terms of overall well-being of the skin health rather than temporary aesthetic treatments. Because most of the treatments in aesthetic, it doesn't change the texture of the skin. It just gives like volumetric result or remove the wrinkles temporarily.
So what are the most popular treatments that people are after?
According to a statistic report, first is anti-wrinkle, then dermal filler, then energy-based device. Yeah. But lately, biostimulators also became very popular. And
so what do you mean by biostimulators?
Biostimulator, any substance that can change the texture of the skin, or like it will lead to postpone the aging process, or proliferate more collagen, increase the elasticity of the skin, such as polynucleotide or exosome, or different vitamins and minerals in the form of mesotherapy considered as a biostimulator.
Turkey's a particularly popular destination because the costs are so much lower. There have also been a lot of horror stories about what can happen when things go wrong, even people dying from post-surgery complications. What would you advise people?
Choose as a practitioner or surgeon very carefully and never prioritize price over quality. This is your face after all, your body after all. And mistakes can be reversible. It can be irreversible, and sometimes it's not like a booking restaurant or hotel. It's a sensitive matter that can affect their confidence and skin and body for life. So they need to choose very wisely. They need to search what kind of methodology that particular surgeon, they perform the treatments. Are they using any safety tools?
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're now going to talk about a new review into prisons, and it says that sentences are getting longer thanks to what politicians say is the weaponisation of the criminal justice system.
That's right. So this morning we're asking, should the government issue shorter prison sentences? And is prison even still an effective deterrent?
Well, it would be for me. I could think of nothing worse.
Well, me too.
Yeah,
I wouldn't like to be locked
not
up.
having any of that one. Retired Scotland Yard detective, we say good morning to Mike Neville, and motivational speaker Ads Khan join us now. Mike, so what's your view on prison? Who's to blame for it being so easily available?
Well, let me tell you, my experience of speaking to criminals is there's one thing they fear, and that's going to jail. They don't fear community sentences or anything like that. And what we have is like a whole series of what they call hyper-prolific criminals who've got 50 or more convictions. It's incredible that these people don't go to jail. When people are in jail, they can't burglar houses, they can't steal from our shops, they can't rape or attack women and girls. Prison works. And the reason prison fails all the time is because there isn't enough places. So we let people off with these ridiculous sentences that they're supposed to do community work, and they do none of that at all. And they're not supervised. Sex offenders aren't supervised. And as I say, if they're locked in jail, they cannot attack or disrupt our lives. Prison works.
Yeah, that's pretty simple. I mean, I think adds that argument by Mike there about sums everything up the way people feel. And, you know, to criticise authorities for talking tough about prison should be there like a horrible, horrible threat over these criminals' heads. Would you agree or not?
Oh, definitely. Look, I would firstly, good morning to everybody. I would most definitely agree. And prison it's a brutal and a very dangerous place. I mean, it's so brutal that if prison was easy, why do we have every 4 days in our UK prison systems, there's a suicide? That's how brutal our system is. Overcrowding is a major issue. But again, once again, we're not focusing. We're just, by building more prisons, we're thinking that what's going to happen is we're going to reduce crime and reoffending, and that is not the case. We need reform and we need rehabilitation because the prison population is growing. I mean, anybody that argues that they didn't see this coming, I mean, Stevie Wonder could see this coming, for heaven's sake. Year on year, what used to happen when I was in prison is I used to check the boards and the population was increasing and nobody was doing anything about it. We need real-life people with real-life experiences to deal with this real-life crisis. And I'm a walking, talking billboard of reform and rehabilitation. We need to stop the cycle of reoffending. We need to stop the suffering, and we need to stop the excuses. Politicians are playing the blame game, right? So the Labour Party blames the Conservatives blame the Labour Party, and meanwhile, Rome's on fire. We need to get a grip of all this, and, you know, it just got to show the adult literacy levels within the UK prisons is that of an 11-year-old. You see, we don't have sufficient staff to deal with the prisons that we've currently got. So by building more prisons and not actually reflecting this onto reform and rehabilitation, we're going to be ending up with the same position that we're currently in. And forget Donald Trump going for Greenland. It's going to be Keir Starmer that's going to end up saying that we need that possession of Greenland because we're going to have no room left for prisoners.
Mike, let's bring you back in now. I just had an email from James who says that our prisons are too soft. Prisoners only serve 40% of their sentence now. They live a better life than a lot of those not in prison, with TV, cigarettes, educational programmes and an Xbox. He's got a point, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely got a point. And as a young policeman, I remember hearing this, that somebody got 9 years for a rape and 3 years for a burglary, broke into a house and attacked a woman. Now, in my mind, 9 plus 3 equaled 12. And so why was he out so quickly? Well, of course, the 3 was concurrent to the 9. He served half of the 9, so he was out of prison in 4.5 years. So how does 4.5 equal 12? That's the despicable trick that the establishment plays on the public. They claim they're sentencing people. And the other thing, of course, that makes people sick is the two-tier system, that people are sentenced to prison for a Facebook post or putting some nasty words where they should have a warning or a caution on Facebook. And then burglars, thieves and rapists aren't locked up. And up to a point with your other guest, I agree. If people can't read and write, then they can stay in prison until they can read and write and get a job. That's the way to deal with that, not to release them. And if we have to do rehabilitation, that's good. But the facts are, lock them up. It's a punishment. Let's never forget that. And while they're being punished, they cannot hurt us, the public who do the best. And we see all the time, the reason there's more crime is because people can commit crime. You can go and shoplift today and no one stops you. That's why crime keeps increasing. So we need to crack down on crime, and those who commit crime need to go to jail for a substantial amount of time.
Last word to you.
Yeah, look, I mean, you're a Scotland Yard detective, and I really do appreciate that work you've done in your career. But you know yourself, the fastest way to solve the crime is to follow the evidence. And the evidence suggests that building more prisons is not reducing reoffending. We need to rehabilitate, and we need to, well, yeah, that's it. We need reform and rehabilitation. Crime prevention in schools, reform and rehabilitation in prisons.
Thank you, both gentlemen. Good arguments. Thank you very much indeed. Remember, folks watching and listening at home, have your say. Get in touch with us today, and we will reflect that throughout the programme this morning. And there is how you do it. The poll of the day is...
Is prison still the best way to teach criminals a lesson? If you want to get involved, just scan the QR code on your screen now, or you can go to gbnews.com/poll.
Have we got nothing that can bring people up to date as to how this is going?
We've got nothing on the poll yet. We've got quite a few views on prisons. Stephen says, on prisons, the elephant in the room is immigration. And Mr T says, easy solution to stop prisoner overcrowding is to deport foreign criminals. James says, build more prisons and make criminals serve the whole sentence. We've become too lenient.
We'll reflect what you're saying about this as soon as we can. We'll take a break there. Up next, the Defence Secretary James Cartledge will be joining us right after this.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A85 is closed in both directions between Oban and Connell after an accident last night. The diversion route is over 80 miles long. Now, on the M1 in Derbyshire, there are southbound delays because of roadworks between junctions 29 and 28 near Mansfield. In Nottinghamshire, on the A46, there's a lane closed southbound where someone's broken down between the A1 and Cattle Market roundabout at Newark. On the M25 in Surrey, there's an accident anti-clockwise between junctions 13 and 12 from Staines to the M3, causing queues. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. On the M20 in Kent, two lanes are closed westbound after a breakdown in the roadworks between junctions 9 and 8 from Ashford towards Maidstone, causing delays. And in Surrey, the A25 is closed in both directions along the High Street in Godstone for emergency repairs to subsidence.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very shortly, we'll be interviewing the Shadow Defence Secretary, James Cartledge. Right now, we have the joy and the honour of having Mr. Paul.
That's so kind of you, Eamonn.
Not at all, my friend.
Thank you.
It's only accurate. A great game last night. I watched the Leeds-Sunderland game in the Championship last night, and whoa, what a comeback by Leeds.
The Championship is a great league to watch. I know. See, I get a lot of messages saying, why don't you do this sport? Why don't we do more speedway? Why don't we do this? And it's difficult to get everything in. It's the same with the Championship. But the Championship, you know, I should always say, is probably as good, if not more exciting, than the Premier League is when it comes to the football. It's always very, very tight. Now, Leeds beat Sunderland last night 2-1. They were 1-0 down and then came at 95th minute, so you stayed on right to the very end to see the... And the celebrations there at Ellen Road. And I mentioned earlier, the manager, Daniel Farker, got very, very excited, so got himself a yellow card, which now means he's not going to be on the bench. He'll be able to stand on the touchline for the huge game, which is the big derby, which they're playing against Sheffield United on Monday. So the way things are at the moment, Leeds are top with 72. Then you've got Sheffield United on 70, Burnley 65, Sunderland 62. It's all very tight up there, and it always is. So a great game in the Championship yesterday. Yannick Sinner, I should mention, there's still loads of talk about Yannick Sinner. Now, Yannick Sinner, the world #1 tennis player, been banned for 3 months for illegal substances. When I say illegal, as far as sporting is concerned, he's taking clostebol, which he's not allowed to take. Anyway, he's been banned for 3 months. Everybody's up in arms about it. Every other tennis player seems to be. The reason for this is because the ban started yesterday, runs for 3 months. It then ends the day before his home tournament, which is the Rome Masters, and he'll be open to play in any big tournament. So it's just like a Premier League footballer being banned during the summer. So what good is that going to be?
Yeah.
Champions League tonight, Celtic in action.
Bayern Munich away.
Yeah.
Bayern Munich.
Tough one, they trail 2-1.
In Bavaria, 2-1 down. Gonna be tight. Shall we hear from Brendan, your friend Brendan?
Yeah.
Let's hear from Brendan Rodgers. See, this is what he's saying about what they should be and how they should go and how it should be tonight. Anyways, Brendan Rodgers talking in Bavaria.
You come to this level and you have to play without any fear. I think there's worse things in football that can happen than lose, or worse things in life that can happen than lose a game of football. So for us, we want to ensure that when we come in after the game, if we don't go through, we've given it absolutely everything.
See, as a football fan, you don't mind as long as you've seen your team go out and just go for it. If you lose, if you get beaten 5, it's one of those things, but as long as you see them go out and go for it, and that's what Celtic want to see, and that's what we want to see.
OK.
Tonight, in Germany. Good luck.
Birthdays.
You want to play birthdays?
Birthdays, yeah.
OK. Sporting birthdays. Oh, what a legend.
Colin Jackson.
Correct. Colin Jackson, world champion twice. Held the world record for the 110-metre hurdle for 13 years. The 60-metre indoor record he held for 27 years. How old is he today?
He is 56.
By the way, that looks just like me jumping over the fence when I got home yesterday. Almost exactly the same stance there.
I always thought the hurdles were scary.
Yeah.
I'd be scared too.
Because the thing is, the secret of the hurdles is not to jump up over the top. You almost go through. So you lift your legs, but your body doesn't move. So from the waist down...
It's like
Irish dancing. It's a similar sort of thing. Anyway, so how old do you say Colin is?
56.
56 for today, huh?
60.
Look at that, 58. Right in the middle. Right in the middle.
We have a tendency of doing that.
Very good, though.
Yeah,
right, next one. Right, Eamonn is really hopeful for
That's
you here.
Gary Nev.
Is that Gary Neville?
Gary Neville.
Yeah.
How many Premier League trophies has he won, Eamonn?
With
Manchester United?
A lot. 25, I don't know, a
8
lot.
2-time Champions Leagues, 602 games for United, a fine pundit, a nice fella, 85 England caps. How old is Gary Neville today?
51.
No, he's 50. He's 50, half a century.
You're right. Did you know that?
Well done.
Very good.
Can I just say that was a really good guess from me?
It was a very good. I'll give you a point because Eamonn...
You give yourself that credit. That's good.
I'm with you, Ellie. I'll let Eamonn go first for the next one. One more. Let's not go. Let's go with one of the film stars. That's Jermaine Genus. Do we want to go with Jermaine Genus?
No.
Are we allowed now?
No, let's go
on to the next one. Jermaine, 42.
Oh, Travolta.
Oh, it's John Travolta.
Right.
I've got chills then.
I would say John Travolta has to be at least 70.
Oh, 68.
No, he's 70, and he might be a bit more.
68.
Both. Go again.
75.
71.
71 is the right answer. A masterful game of birthdays played by...
Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Well, thank you.
OK.
It's a pleasure.
Thanks, Paul Coit. Let's speak now to Shadow Defence Secretary James Cartledge, who joins us now. Good to see you this morning, Mr Cartledge. Can we start by talking about Sir Keir Starmer, who's spoken about his willingness to put British troops on the ground in Ukraine as part of a peacekeeping force. Would you support that?
Well, I think the important thing to stress is, first of all, as you know, when we were in government, we stood by Ukraine at the outset of the invasion by Russia, and we provide them with weapons and munitions even before the invasion, which if we had not done so, they may well have fallen and been fully conquered, which would have been terrible for all of us and for the strategic position of NATO in particular. As it is, they have gone on to fight back valiantly. They've had our support, and then in opposition, we've strongly supported the government. So we will stand by the government in supporting Ukraine. I think on the specific question of sending in troops, obviously, that raises a lot of questions. We want to know exactly what, for example, the terms of engagement are and so on. But yeah, we wouldn't rule that out. And I just think at the moment the focus has to be on two areas, if I may. Number one. Ukraine must be a principal voice in these negotiations. It's absolutely critical. They are the country that was invaded without provocation, who has suffered so much and shed so much blood. The other point, which I do think is critical, is we in the UK need to get on with increasing defence spending. There's no use talking about it. We have been waiting months now for them to get on with that, and I would urge them to start increasing spending and placing the procurement orders we need so that we can start replenishing the munitions, not least those we've given to Ukraine.
But James, what if the Americans and Russia say you're not having any role in the negotiations? What can you do about that?
But to be fair, they haven't said that. So if you look at General Kellogg, who is, I think, a key player in all this, he is the president's envoy to Ukraine, Russia. His position overnight, what he said is that Ukraine will have a role in the negotiations, but also emphasising that they take nothing off the table in respect of the US military. So I think, I do think it's very obvious this is an evolving situation. We're hearing lots of different things, lots of voices speaking. But I just think that the crucial thing is to focus on what really matters here. And I think to, your viewers at home, they will be slightly surprised to hear the Prime Minister suddenly so keenly talking about defence spending and security in Europe, when actually what we've seen is a rush to do things like the Chagos deal, which undermine our security, and to date, lots of prevarication on higher defence spending. So I think that's where the priority has to be back home.
OK.
Why didn't you increase defence spending? I mean, you pledged it, you set a pathway, but you didn't actually increase it.
Well, we did, actually. So just if you want to go back over all the data, since 1985, when Gorbachev became president and the Cold War started to end, of course, formally in 1989, as it were, when the Berlin Wall came down, defence spending has been on a downward path continuously. That finally started to reverse when Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, and we went up to a sustained level of 2.3%. So it did increase. That was the biggest spending review increase since the Cold War. And at the election, we had a plan to increase it further to 2.5%, which would have been funded by reducing the civil service back to its pre-pandemic size, which we think is entirely right. And I just want to emphasise this. I was a Defence Procurement Minister before the election, who was involved in all the planning for increasing defence spending to 2.5%. The most important thing, actually, is time. We have to get on with it. Because if you place an order for today for missiles like Storm Shadow, they don't suddenly appear. It can take a few years. And so we've wasted months. The government have wasted months not placing those orders. I think the Treasury have been leading this. Hopefully now the Prime Minister has woken up to the scale of the threats we face, which we faced back in the summer when I became Shadow Defence Secretary, and I was urging them to increase defence spending. They need to get on with it.
OK.
I've got them, sorry, just to come back on that, I've got the Ministry of Defence departmental spending here in front of me. 2009, 2010, so before the coalition, at 57 billion, then went down to as low as 44.6 billion in 2016, 2017. It's now up to 53.9 in 2023 under the Tories. So it's never reached those same heights again of 57.1, but just to come back on that point.
James Collins, we're going to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed for your time and your comments this morning. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Now do stay with us. Still to come, Ian Paisley Jr. and David Wooding are going through the papers with us. But first, if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
A brisk wind continues to blow over the Canaries, but it will be easing as we head through the latter part of this week. Still a few showers across Spain and Portugal. They will also be fading. Much of the east coast of Spain seeing plenty of sunshine, along with the Balearics and Sardinia, but a few scattered showers over southern parts of mainland Italy. And looking fairly showery in Greece once more, and with the winds coming down from the north, it is chilly and, if anything, getting colder in Santorini through the rest of this week. Goodbye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
As we kick off 2025, many of us might be thinking about a bit of a wardrobe refresh, especially if you're over 50 and you feel like the high street doesn't quite cater to you.
Indeed. That's where our next guest, Mel Tillett, comes in. She's in the studio with us now.
Mel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I love that you are this accidental influencer. I love that you said that's the first time.
Yeah, it is. That's the first time I've heard it.
You can have that
yes,
for free on TV.
Thank you so much. It's quite true.
Tell us about your following. Obviously, an influencer that many people might typically think of would be someone in their teens, someone in their 20s, someone who's particularly social media savvy, using TikTok. Talk to us about your brand of influencer.
Well, our influencer, my kind of influence is over the older age group, the over 50s. For my business, I do a lot of live videos. I do them early in the morning at 7:30, which sounds ridiculous, but I know my ladies are up and about at that time having a cup of coffee or whatever that might be. And just being honest about day-to-day life. So my dogs are running about, my grandchildren are even sometimes in them, one thing and another. So it's just been purely by accident that I've got this really nice, loyal following, and I get lovely messages off ladies. I'll do things like, I'll tell them when I'm going for a mammogram, and I'll say, come on, everybody go for your mammogram.
That's brilliant.
All sort of health-conscious things. I've been a lot heavier than I am now, and I've slimmed down and lost some weight. I've been talking about that journey as well. And then ladies will ask me questions on the videos, and we chat about all sorts of different things. And now I'm getting messages every day, and people are loving the clothing ranges that we do. And it's just, I started off as a business, that's purely what I did, but it's turned out into this other, I get recognised places I go now, which is really weird.
It must be a huge benefit to your business as well.
We employ around about 50 people.
Wow.
And I'm quite open to my audience and saying, you know, while ever you keep buying offers, while ever you're loving our products and our clothing, you're keeping 50 people in jobs.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
David Wooding, Ian Paisley Jr., they've got the papers in front of them. Ian, you're going to talk about Kemi Badenoch. A lot of questions over her authority, how long she may or may not last. She's making front page of the Daily Mail today. What's it saying?
Well, I was at a conference yesterday and I heard Kemi make this speech.
Yes.
And she actually found her voice. She commanded the audience. She spoke with authority. And she, I think it's a bit like, whenever America says something or has a sneeze, Britain catches the cold.
Yeah.
And we've seen this in British politics where Trump, where Vance are saying, the dictatorship of the liberal left are not really liberal at all. We've got to be anti-woke. We've got to stand up. We've got to oppose censorship.
This sort of echoes what J.D. Vance said earlier in the week.
And Kemi has now come out and really in a call for confidence and for being able to stand up for what you believe and not to worry about creating an argument or having a different opinion for someone else. She's come out and said we must defend our Western values against this kind of woke ideology which has swept across the UK. And as I say, I think she found her voice yesterday and she did very, very well.
It seems to me with Kemi Badenoch is she does have a voice, but she will use it only on her terms. She won't come out and speak when at PMQs. There's been criticism of her performance over recent weeks. It's there, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's not there at all times and on demand and on call.
I mean, there is some questions raised about the start to her leadership. She's not had the greatest of starts, to be fair. But the problem is she's trying to find her own voice, as you say. But national pride is a good starting point for her to move forward. And this will chime with some of these polls saying that young people now feel that Britain is racist country and they would rather be ruled by a dictator, some people said. They want strong leadership.
Well, she feels Western civilization is a threat, has been threatened, and it's now time we stand up for it and defend Western civilization. And the quotes from her speech are very, very good. Defence of free speech, defence of you're innocent till proved guilty, but also you're all equal under the law and equally subject to the law. Who could disagree with those things? And to set them out there as classical liberal philosophy and say, I'm going to defend them, I'm going to speak up for them, maybe she has found her voice, but this is early days for the new leadership as well. So who knows, Eamonn?
Right, have your say. Get in touch with us. We would appreciate hearing from you. David, yesterday we were talking about wastage. Very good investigative stuff from The Sun about how government is spending money and in many cases wasting money. 8 billion's wasted on TikTok dance classes and trans robots.
Yes, yesterday you covered the story of The Sun saying that £15 billion was wasted on balmy foreign aid projects. Today's instalment tells us about money going to universities, 8 billion of it, and one of them is £200,000 going to the University of Coventry for a study in TikTok dancing. Some great headlines.
Why?
Great headlines here. Do the wokey cokey on page 1, and inside, hey, jig spender. Again, this is woke ideology. There's also some studies on, and I quote, queerness in animals and pro-trans robots. All of this being funded out of taxpayers' money at a time when we need £12 billion
for the army.
For the army, and they say they haven't got enough.
Can't get your bins collected.
Pensioners freezing to death.
Yeah.
Taxpayers' money being spent on this, and then we have other ideas going off. Oh, the government can do everything with the army. We can raise a new army, or we can. But poor old pensioners are freezing to death, and we're wasting money on this.
But Ian, we can all sit and complain about this and make noise about this, but who's going to ever do anything about it?
Well, I actually think if a government wants to be loved again, and we had a conversation off air about this, if a government wants to be loved again, it's got to get real and bring in common sense issues and make people realise that what government is there to do is to govern for the people on behalf of the people, not government for these woke ideas that are plaguing our society.
Do we need a department for government efficiency, like we're seeing happening in the US?
Every government minister is an accounting officer for their own department. Every Secretary of State, and they should be that minister doing that and taking the scythe and saying that's waste and make it his or her mission to cut waste in their own department. Creating another department to do it is just going to be more money thrown at the problem.
David, we were talking yesterday, we're highlighting the story features in the Telegraph today about this amazing cat, which is very used to getting on board buses and cars and trains. And it's amazing that the cat hasn't been lost. It's got a tracker device on it.
Got an Apple AirTag on.
It's got a tag on it, so you can tell where it is at any stage. But it ended up 17 miles away from home at Waterloo Station.
Yes, it's more of a straying cat than a stray cat. Tilly's got this sort of wanderlust, and she's been seen jumping outside into pubs.
Tilly's a healthy-looking cat.
Yeah,
Tilly's beautiful.
Did she travel first class? Did she use the buffet cart?
I hope so, yeah.
I reckon worse, Ian. I reckon she was a fur dodger, because I'm not sure she had
that's a perfect pun.
But fortunately, she was tagged and reunited with her owner, and in fact, through the electronic tag, they found she went through all the stops, so she clearly knew where to get onto the train. The strange thing is now they discovered since this story ran yesterday that she was found hanging outside a taxi rank. So we wonder where she might be going next.
I wonder where she was hoping to go next.
You see, the thing is, I think the cat's got confidence because it knows wherever it goes, its owner turns up, and the owner turns up because he's able to track her.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difficulty about this.
I mean, for Tilly to have to wear an Apple AirTag would suggest that perhaps there was an occasion where she went wandering off and she wasn't found.
Well, she has set up a Facebook group since, which has got about 5,000 members, so the adventures of Tilly will probably carry on for some time.
Hasn't she been found behind the bar of a pub or something before?
Yes,
I think
behind the bar of a pub. She's hitched taxi rides, she's done all sorts of things. I always thought cats like to stay quite close to their house. They found the house was their domain. One that wanders off so far is a bit odd.
Not Tilly.
Good.
Thank you, gentlemen. Great to see you. We were talking about Kemi Badenoch earlier. Just to say, she was speaking at the Alliance for Responsible Citizenship Conference in central London. And ARC is an organisation that is funded by the lead investors in GB News, just for the transparency there. Let's get the weather update now with Alex Deacon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Bit of a damp start for Northern Ireland and Scotland, where there's a bit of snow falling too. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll be a dry day, and for many, quite a bright day. It's not just snow, some freezing rain also across parts of southern Scotland, so it could be icy here for the morning commute. The damp weather slowly fizzles out as we go through the day. Bit of snow even at lower levels, but most of it will be over the hills. The rain and drizzle easing off across Northern Ireland. Staying quite windy here, quite a brisk breeze along the south coast of England, South Wales. The brightest skies in the east, but temperatures again struggling here despite a bit of weak sunshine. 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, a little milder further west, but for most still a pretty chilly day, and again quite quickly turning quite cold this evening. Still the odd little bit of rain and drizzle across northern Scotland into this evening, but generally it is turning drier here, staying fairly cloudy and getting quite gusty, particularly for Northern Ireland, the west coast of Scotland. Brisk and cold breeze continues to come in off the near continent, and with some clear skies over central and eastern England, we will again have a frost forming through the night. Also through the night, the winds will strengthen down to the southwest as the cloud starts to increase as we go through the early hours here. Elsewhere, though, generally staying dry with a mixture of high cloud and clear skies. Temperatures will be falling down to freezing, degree or so below in rural spots. But further west, notice we should stay a few degrees above freezing because it is slowly turning milder here. Milder but also wetter, quite a damp morning for Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, and that rain spreading into Northern Ireland quite quickly too. So a damp start here. That rain will trickle into other parts of Wales, southwest Scotland, but tended to fizzle out somewhat as it does so. For many central and eastern parts, it's another dry day tomorrow. Still bright and still on the chilly side, but it is turning milder from the west.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A85 is closed in both directions between Oban and Connell after an accident last night. The diversion route is over 80 miles long. Now on the M6 from Cheshire into Merseyside, there's a lane closed northbound after an accident between junctions 22 and 23 from Newton Willows to Haydock, causing delays. And then southbound, there are queues after traffic was stopped because of an accident between junctions 17 and 16 near Crewe. In Nottinghamshire on the A46, there's a lane closed southbound where someone's broken down between the A1 and Cattle Market roundabout at Newark, causing delays. The M25 in Surrey is blocked anti-clockwise by an accident just before junction 12 for the M3, with queues from junction 14 at Heathrow. Also in Surrey, the A25 is closed each way along the High Street in Godstone for repairs to subsidence. And on the M20 in Kent, 2 lanes are closed westbound where someone's broken down between junctions 9 and 8 from Ashford to Maidstone.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Want to be one of 2 lucky Great British giveaway winners? That's right, you could win one of 2 prize bundles, which includes a brand new iPhone 16, £500 in shopping vouchers to spend in your favourite store, and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. What would you spend that cash on? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello there, very good morning to you. A crisis in Europe as the Prime Minister leaves Germany furious.
Sir Keir Starmer's peace plan for Ukraine has served a blow as Germany walks out of talks, as the US and Russia prepare to negotiate in Saudi Arabia.
Will Putin feast at this European table? And what does that mean for Ukraine?
At stake is not just the future of Ukraine, it is an existential question for Europe as a whole.
Well, earlier we asked Minister Heidi Alexander what Labour wants to see from a potential peace deal.
What we can't have is a situation where there is a temporary pause in hostilities, say, which allows Putin to return with a territorial incursion into a sovereign country.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer had hoped to bring together European nations to offer peacekeeping troops to any peace deal that America, Russia and eventually Ukraine hatch out.
Holy
A Delta Airlines flight has crashed in Toronto and dramatically flipped on the runway. Miraculously, all 80 passengers still alive.
Are prison sentences too long? Well, a damning report blames politicians for wanting to appear tough on crime for the rise in lengthy jail terms.
John Burkill, letting all the tram man in Sheffield,
and I have at the moment is 1.1 million for Macmillan.
He's the man with the pram in Sheffield, and we're talking to him live today. He is a legend who has dedicated his life to raising over £1 million for cancer support. Doing that very shortly.
It's been 20 years since the fox hunting ban. Could trail hunting be next after the government promised to outlaw the pastime beloved by so many?
And in the sport this morning, we're humdinger at the top of the championship as leaders Leeds United beat Sunderland in the 95th minute. Celtic head to Munich in the Champions League tonight with a minor Alp to climb, and Everton use their shiny brand new stadium for the very first time.
It is turning milder through the rest of this week, but it is taking its time. Another chilly one today, and there's a bit of snow and ice in the forecast this morning. Join me later for a full forecast.
Hello there on this Tuesday morning. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
I see those Leeds headlines, Paul, Leeds Sunderland, and I always think of the cup final. Yep. Was it 72, 73?
73, lead, Sunderland.
Ian Porterfield
scored the winning goal.
Yeah.
Bob Stokoe was the man in the Mac with the hat.
And the goalkeeper, Montgomery, was it?
Jim Montgomery.
He made a
triple
save from Peter Lorimer.
That's right.
It was. Gosh, funny. Things we remember, all our yesterdays.
Can't remember anything how the game went yesterday, but I remember everything about the 1973. Obviously, I wasn't born at that time.
What have you got?
Oh, I've got a few views on this plane crash in Canada. Lots of you getting in touch. Lots of you very annoyed, actually, at this footage. I don't know if we can share it. But passengers who were getting off this plane took their baggage with them and were filming.
Even though
evacuation.
they were upside down. They were hanging upside down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Christine said passengers getting off with their baggage with lots of angry face emojis. Yeah. She's furious.
But you know, I think in defence of people, there'll be something like their passport in there, something that life will become very, very difficult without having it. But I know what you mean. It's upside down. It could burst into flames at any time.
You need to get out.
Get off.
Get out.
You need to get out there as soon as possible, not be picking stuff up. That's the whole thing. You always get told that.
I know. Yeah. Well, Here and Now's been in touch saying if that person was in front of me waving his phone around to record the action, he'd have been told. Grrr.
Yes.
Said Here and Now. And Richard said, because the passengers were strapped in, the greatest danger was obviously when they hit the release button on their seatbelt, they're upside down.
Fall and break your neck.
Fall and break your neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but the thing is, if you're upside down, you've got the seatbelt on, you want your seatbelt on, because if it turns upside down and you don't have your seatbelt on, then you're going to fall anyway, so you've got to have the seatbelt on. So
keep your seatbelt on, people. And don't take your luggage with you if you're evacuating a plane.
Well, buckle your belts. Here we go for the 8 o'clock hour on GB News Breakfast. Very nice to have you on board.
A crisis in Europe as Germany rejects the UK's peace plans for Ukraine.
Well, this was at a summit of European leaders in Paris. It was yesterday, and the Prime Minister reiterated that he is prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground in Ukraine.
Europe must play its role, and I'm prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground alongside others if there is a lasting peace agreement. But there must be a US backstop, because a US security guarantee is the only way to effectively deter Russia from attacking Ukraine again. So I will go to Washington next week to meet President Trump and to discuss what we see as the key elements of a lasting peace.
Well, meanwhile, the United States and Russia's most senior officials are gathering in Saudi Arabia today after President Donald Trump announced peace talks with Russia. Well, joining us now is GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. And Mark, Sir Keir Starmer yesterday would have been hoping to put on a united front, but really it was anything but.
Yes, there's no doubt that Sir Keir Starmer probably thought that his pronouncements were very statesmanlike, that he was positioning the UK in a role that, OK, they're not involved directly in any talks between Ukraine, Russia and the United States, but they could take on this important role of peacekeeping should a deal be hatched. But it's very clear that that was met by a great deal of suspicion within that European meeting. And we heard there from the German Chancellor saying that he felt that that was inappropriate and premature, if you like, a real diplomatic slap around the chops for the UK Prime Minister there in terms of going down that road to putting peacekeepers into what is a hugely dangerous, volatile situation with no real indication as to what they might be facing, what any deal might look like. So putting your cards on the table and saying you would be willing to put your troops in harm's way, clearly the German Chancellor feels no way at this stage.
And what are we expecting from these talks in Saudi Arabia between Russia and the US? We've been told that they're just preliminary talks at this stage.
Well, there's been a lot of, conversation about the fact that Ukraine is not represented here and a feeling that Ukraine is being frozen out of these talks. But what the US will tell you is that these are not peace negotiations as such, but a chance to actually speak one-on-one to Moscow in a way that neither the US or any European leaders have done since that invasion in 2014. There was a brief attempt at peace negotiations a few months into the war, but really since then it's been stalemate, and you've had both the US and its European allies determined just to continue providing arms and further aid to Ukraine, to continue prosecuting the war. Clearly, President Trump wants to do things differently to get the sides around the table. But what this is about with Moscow is being able to assess from them in the first instance whether they would be serious about peace negotiations, what their possible red lines might be, before then going to the next stage of actually holding proper peace talks, at which, of course, Ukraine would be represented.
OK, Mark White, good to see you. Thank you very much.
Great British giveaway. If you want to be one of 2 new winners, each getting iPhones, shopping vouchers and £10,000 in tax-free cash, have a go.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, last week we featured the hunt for Piglet, the Chihuahua, who vanished after a burglary on a canal boat in Uxbridge last March.
Well, his owner, Mel, desperate to be reunited, has recruited the services of pet detective Colin Butcher. Colin is with us now. How's it going, Colin?
Pretty good, thanks very much.
And what is a pet detective, Colin?
The best way to describe it is I'm a private detective, but I only specialise in animal cases.
And how would you go about finding a missing dog or cat? I suppose it's dogs and cats that you specialise in.
All animals.
All animals?
Yeah,
all
animals, yeah. So we say that all of our clients have got 4 legs or wings.
Oh.
So that's how we work. But with this case, it's a cold case review because the dog went missing 10 months ago. So I'm just applying the police tactics that I used to apply when I was a detective inspector, which is simply looking at whether there are any missed investigative opportunities back in March last year, and then pushing them forward to see where we go.
So you used to be a police detective, and then when did you decide to make the switch over to pets?
When I was tempted away with a very big pay packet by the oil industry.
Oh.
So I went across and worked within the oil industry for 5 years, and then set up this private detective agency focusing primarily on animals.
And do you ever have to deal with dog abductions? We know that they're happening more and more now, aren't they? They happen very frequently, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Pet Abduction Act. I still class them as dog thefts, because that's what they are. But to the best of my knowledge, no one's been charged with pet abduction yet, and it's been in since August.
So yeah, this came in under the Tories, didn't it, in August? So it was to make, because a lot of people wouldn't be aware of this, that it wasn't actually a crime, was it? To steal a dog or cat. In that sense, it came under property. It came under theft in the law.
It did, yeah.
No, an abduction.
That's it. And animals were treated as an item of property, and there's no consideration whatsoever for the owner's torment and mental anguish, which is considerable when your pet goes missing.
Of course it is, Colin. The thing is that if the police treat it like someone's nicked your bike and whatever, that's very unfortunate and you think really bad, but you can always buy a new bike.
Yes.
What is it like, and you've seen it up close and personal, when people lose something so dear to them?
The heart has no way of deciding how much grief and anguish there will be, whether it's a member of your family or whether it's a pet. So you still suffer, but you also have that horrible feeling of guilt that you shouldn't be grieving that way, or you feel guilty that you could have done more before your animal was stolen or went missing. And then there are people thinking, well, it's only a pet. So it's a really, really difficult time for owners, because they've got all of the self-blame, they've got the anguish that this...
You say, you know, and you're rightly so, you say some people will say it's only a pet. Those will be people who don't have pets. And because, in my experience, people who have dogs and cats and things, it's like a child to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what it's like. I've worked with a client recently. Her cat went missing, and it was her link to her deceased husband. So for her, the cat not being in her life was her reliving the grief of the loss of her husband. So it was really, really important that she be reunited with that link, which is what we managed to achieve for her.
And in terms of this hunt for Piglet, what happens next? So, I mean, you've been searching for 10 months now.
Well, I've only been on the investigation for 2 weeks.
OK.
And what we've managed to identify is there were some missed opportunities. Some witnesses have been tracked down, and they have given us this new narrative that shows that the missing dog ran into a car park on the other side of the bridge. And we are now focusing our efforts on that car park, trying to get witnesses to come forward, that if somebody picked the dog up, then there'll be witnesses, and we just want them to come forward and speak to us.
Yeah.
OK.
And that is the little dog in question. That's the little dog itself. And what more can you tell us about Piglet? How old and...
He's a young male adult Chihuahua. He's intact, which means he could end up within the breeding circuit. He means everything to his owner, literally everything. And I deal with a lot of traumatised people, and she really is up and down at the moment. So she has done everything possible in her life to try and find this little dog. She's travelled from Land's End to John O'Groat. She's gone to so many different vets. She has done an amazing job, but not really with the support that she needs. So
but she's got you on board now.
Yeah, well...
And hopefully you can find Piglet.
Yes.
Best of luck to you.
Colin Butcher is the pet detective. Lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much
indeed. Good luck.
Now, at 15 minutes past 8, let's take a look at some other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
A new independent review into prisons has found sentences are getting longer thanks to political messaging being all about being tough on crime. It lays the blame on successive governments for the overcrowding, describing ministers' handling as unstrategic and unsustainable.
The Vatican has given an update on Pope Francis's health. They say he will remain in hospital for as long as necessary. Last week, the 88-year-old was hospitalised with a respiratory tract infection. His condition is, for the time being, stable.
The Princess of Wales and her 3 children have showed off their artistic skills, releasing portraits of each other as part of Catherine's campaign to boost an understanding of children's social skills.
They're royal pictures as you've never seen before, perhaps inspired by the Princess of Wales's recent visit to the National Portrait Gallery. Now, an update on our poll of the day today. We've been asking, is prison still the best way to teach criminals a lesson?
Yeah, this is the way the vote's going so far. 88% of you in favour of prison. Put more people in them, build more of them. 12% are against the current system. So 88 for, 12% against. Martin Daubney's show from 3 o'clock this afternoon will bring you the final result.
Yeah, and if you want to get involved, just head to gbnews.com/poll, or you can scan the QR code on your screens now. Now let's have a check on the weather, shall we, with Alex Deacon.
Despite the morning rain, it'll be a nice, warm, cosy day ahead. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Bit of a damp start for Northern Ireland and Scotland, where there's a bit of snow falling too. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll be a dry day, and for many, quite a bright day. It's not just snow, there's some freezing rain also across parts of southern Scotland, so it could be icy here for the morning commute. The damp weather slowly fizzles out as we go through the day. Bit of snow even at lower levels, but most of it will be over the hills. The rain and drizzle easing off across Northern Ireland. Staying quite windy here, quite a brisk breeze along the south coast of England, South Wales. The brightest skies in the east, but temperatures again struggling here despite a bit of weak sunshine. 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, a little milder further west, but for most still a pretty chilly day, and again quite quickly turning quite cold this evening. Still the odd little bit of rain and drizzle across northern Scotland into this evening, but generally it is turning drier here, staying fairly cloudy and getting quite gusty, particularly for Northern Ireland, the west coast of Scotland. Brisk and cold breeze continues to come in off the near continent, and with some clear skies over central and eastern England, we will again have a frost forming through the night. Also through the night, the winds will strengthen down to the southwest as the cloud starts to increase as we go through the early hours here. Elsewhere, though, generally staying dry with a mixture of high cloud and clear skies. Temperatures will be falling down to freezing, degree or so below in rural spots. But further west, notice we should stay a few degrees above freezing because it is slowly turning milder here. Milder but also wetter, quite a damp morning for Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, and that rain spreading into Northern Ireland quite quickly too. So a damp start here. That rain will trickle into other parts of Wales, southwest Scotland, but tended to fizzle out somewhat as it does so. For many central and eastern parts, it's another dry day tomorrow. Still bright and still on the chilly side, but it is turning milder from the west.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Up next, a Sheffield legend with a pram and a green wig. He is the man who raised £1 million for charity.
John Burkill, better known as the pram man of Sheffield, and I have at the moment raised 1.1 million for Macmillan.
We're going to be talking to him next.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, joining us in the studio now is Chia Eaglin and Erin Cobb from Clark's Farm Greyhound Rescue, who have brought along two very special guests. This is Duchess.
So Duchess is the one I'm stroking. This is Duchess, isn't it? Our lady joining us this morning, and then over there is Vieira.
Vieira's a chap, isn't he? And Duchess is a lady. So,
talk to us about their history. Now, they used to be racing dogs, didn't they? But now they're looking for a home.
Yeah, so both of these dogs were racing greyhounds. They have retired recently. So now we are getting them ready and prepared to go into a forever home, essentially.
So anyone watching, make sure you get on the Clark's Farm website later on today, because these guys are up for adoption. And I mean,
and they are very cute.
How gorgeous.
Look how well behaved they are as well. They were a little bit excited when they came in because it's their first time on TV and they wanted to make a good impression.
They did.
Now
they're both looking, aren't they? They know what's up on
yawning already.
Here. Now, talk to us about greyhounds as a breed. If anyone was going to adopt a greyhound, what would they expect?
I'd say the first thing is couch potatoes. They are the most lazy dog ever.
Really? You wouldn't expect that because of the background.
Everyone has this massive misconception that they need loads of exercise, loads of walks, but they are actually, you know, quite happy with 2 20-minute walks a day. They are
really?
so laid back.
Yeah. Easy.
That's as long as they're able to have their moments of madness, zoomies, you know, they do get the sillies, of course. But once they've had that, they are so happy to just chill out on the sofa with you. Usually,
they've all got different personalities. And it's just great to see, even though some of them...
Duchess just perched on the back of your head.
Duchess is going to fall asleep. You're on TV, Duchess.
She's watching.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Breakfast. It's 8:23, and now for a very special part of the show where we get to meet some of the greatest and bravest Britons.
In this case, John Burkle. There's John. Not surprisingly, he's known as the man with the pram and the green wig, and he's 86 years of age. He's raised how much, Ellie?
£1 million for Macmillan Cancer Support.
That's incredible. The story is John sadly lost his wife June to cancer a year after they lost their daughter Karen during a routine operation. Now, ever since, he's dedicated his whole life to fundraising. And this morning, we would like to say thank you to him as we are joined by lifelong fundraiser John Burkle and his green wig. Hello, John.
Good morning. Are you all right?
I am all right. All the better for seeing you, my friend. But it's coming up to St. Patrick's Day, incidentally. You're looking very Irish.
We're all right. It's a bit nippy up here, but we also up here in North anyway, so it don't matter really.
That's good. That's good. Can someone boost John's mic there just so we can hear him? Sorry, Kelly.
John, you've been through so much. We've just heard there about you losing your wife and losing your daughter. I'm so sorry to hear about both of those things. And despite all of that and everything you've been through, you continue to just give back. How can you do that? Just take something so negative and turn it into something so positive?
It's in my mind. It'll never shift. I mean, when we lost his daughter, our Karen, bless her, she was only 29, and she went to have an operation prior to going on holiday to Greece with her husband. And unfortunately, she never came out anesthetic. So with a 1,000,000 to 1 shot, and my missus, bless her young, she developed cancer from that day and died the following year. So it was very tragic at the time. I've got two lads. One of them's had a back-away cancer, but he's topside on it. And the other lad now, he's Scott. He's 50-ish, 50, I think. It seems a bit funny to my kids when they're 50-year-old, and he's had a couple of strokes, and he's battling on as well. So
yeah, there are always people, John, who, however bad off we all think we are, there's always people who are worse off. And tell me, where are you this morning? Where are we speaking to you? What are these stones behind you I'm seeing there?
I don't know. I think it's in my mind that I've got to carry on as long as I can. I mean, my oldest son, our Stuart, his wife's in a battle now at hospital. She's been in 3 or 4 weeks, and she's in a bit of a battle now. But
well, John, we're here to talk about you.
I can't stop. I've got to carry on to raise.
We're going to talk about you, John, and sing your praises. And I know you want to sing the praises of Sheffield. Why does Sheffield mean so much to you?
Well, Sheffield is the finest city in England. That's what I think about the Sheffield people and everybody. I mean, when I go out there, if somebody puts 10 pence in that bucket, it's 10 pence more than we had there before. So we've got to look at it like that. And in a lot of ways, he told me it was impossible to raise £1 million. Well, 250,000 I set out. I beat that. I got that. Just what's got in the bucket. So I thought, well, set goalposts a bit higher. So we were 500. And we got that. And I thought, well, why not go say for $1 million? And we got $1 million. And now we're pushing on towards...
I know you've got a little tribute or a poem about Sheffield. Do you want to pay honour to Sheffield? You've got a poem there in honour of Sheffield.
I have. I'd like to read it for you if you don't mind.
Oh, please do.
This is what I think about my people of Sheffield. It's just entitled My City. And I read this out when I won the Pride of Britain a couple of years ago at London. And they had a lot of them roaring, and they didn't know what roaring meant, so I had to explain that to them anyway. It's entitled My City. And it goes something like this. Sheffield, my city, that will always be home to me, no matter where I go or whatever sights I will see. Wherever I return, church bells will peal as I come home to the city of steel. A cathedral, cinemas, museums, Sheffield has such beautiful places. Home to a host of people of so many races, living and working in perfect harmony. That's why Sheffield is the greatest place to be. Singing the praises of Sheffield, Sheffield, my Sheffield, as I go forth. For now we are the sporting city of the north. Wonderful people, so happy, so helpful, so kind. Sheffield, no better place you will find. My city of Sheffield is simply the best. England's finest city, better than all the rest. Wherever in the world I will choose to roam, I'll always return to my city, my Sheffield, my home.
Oh, absolutely lovely, absolutely lovely. Well done to you. You're paying tribute to Sheffield. We're paying tribute to you, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you for all that you do, and I know you will continue to do. It's been lovely talking to you.
Yeah, lovely talking to you as well, and nice, best to everybody down there and all. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Thank you.
We get down, and obviously we've got big football teams. I've got to mention them both: Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United.
Yeah.
I want to mention up the Owls because both of them have been brilliant, and of course, my inspiration in a lot of ways is Jane Tomlinson. I think Jane Tomlinson was the finest fundraiser this country's ever seen. And I try to do my races as many as I can of a time.
God bless you, John. We've got to say goodbye to you.
Thank you, John. Lovely
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
Thank you very much indeed. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
John.
What a night.
Thank
what a
you.
man. What a lovely
What a man. What a legend.
Doing that.
If you'd like to donate to John, his Just Giving page is justgiving.com/fundraiser/madwalker. If you'd like to donate money
to the Mad Walker.
To the Mad Walker.
He's got
John.
purpose, there's no doubt about it. They used to spend a lot of time in Sheffield. Actually, it was at Meadowhall 2 weeks ago.
I love Meadowhall.
Yeah, it's a good shopping mall, isn't it?
Yeah.
And but I used to present the World Snooker.
Yes, of course you did, yeah.
From there as well, and so you spent a lot of time in Sheffield, but...
it's a lovely city. Good people,
yeah,
friendly
good
people.
Good people. It's famous for steel.
Yeah.
Knives and all that sort of thing. I spent a day, actually, with Dennis Healy, the former Chancellor up there. I think he was chairman of whatever it was, the something to do with knives and steel and whatever. But it was a very, very nice afternoon with him there one day as well.
That sounds nice.
Folks, thanks very much indeed for your company. We really do appreciate it this morning. Now, we're asking you, what is this woman doing? And why is she making headlines?
She looks like a plane kind of scraping along the floor, doesn't she? Anyway, Paul Coit will be here shortly to tell us all about it next.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A85 is closed in both directions between Oban and Connell after an accident last night. The diversion route's over 80 miles long. The A1 in East Lothian is partly blocked westbound by an accident between Walliford and the A720 Edinburgh City bypass at the Craighall junction after an accident causing queues heading into Edinburgh. On the M6 in Cheshire, the outside lanes closed southbound after an accident between junctions 21A and 21 off the M62 causing queues. Then 2 out of 4 lanes closed further down between junctions 17 and 16 near Crewe causing queues. In Surrey, the A25 is closed each way along the High Street in Godstone for repairs to subsidence. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking nearly half an hour in queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. And on the M27 in Hampshire, there's a lane closed westbound where a car's broken down just before junction 7 near Southampton causing queues. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Here's Paul. We're going to talk all things sport now, including the new home for Everton Football Club. Amazing.
Bramley Moor Dock. Been talked about this for, well, I mean, it's taken years. There it is. And they had their first test event. Now, the rules are, when it comes to stadia, is that you've got to have 3 test events. This is what happened. I remember going through this with Spurs. The first one happened last night at Bramley.
So they'd have to have, 30,000 people or so in there, would
The first one is 10,000. Right. Then I believe it will move up to 20. Then they have to pretty much fill the stadium, and this is to get the certificate. So it's all ship-shape and Bristol fashion, if you follow what I'm saying.
And what's it called at the moment?
Bramley Moor Dock.
Let's hope they find a sponsor.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. I don't know what they're calling it. See, this is the interesting thing. I know that it's being known as, is it the Everton Stadium? Is it going to be the something else? But it is a magnificent stadium. So they had supporters going there for the first time. So like I say, 10,000. It was an under-18s game. Everton played Wigan. So that's how they open it up. And everybody loved it, and it's always a difficult thing when you've been at the same stadium for 119 years and it's part of the fabric of the community and everybody loves it, although it's had its day and it's time to move from the 19th century to the 21st, and this is what they're doing now, and it really is a fantastic stadium.
Well, for a stadium with fantastic atmosphere, Elland Road.
Yes.
And I'm sure Elland Road only has a capacity of 35,000.
It's not many. Yeah, it isn't many.
At all. But what an atmosphere they have inside there.
Well, yeah, and they're heading back to, well, I say it's early days with the Championship. You never know.
They're heading back.
You think they're going to be there, back up to the Premier League?
Too. He used to be at Norwich.
Daniel Farke, there he is. He'd been to Norwich and then back to Germany, and now he's gone back to Leeds, and he is a ponytail going on there, which I can't really forgive, to be honest with you.
But he made a good substitution last night.
Well, he did. Yeah, he did, because it was Pascal Struiker that came on. Scored the 2 goals, 12 minutes to go, scored the equaliser, the winner in the 95th minute. There's nothing like... I know you get annoyed when it comes to games going on late.
Should never be in the 95th minute, 92 maybe, but... Yeah.
But you know what? It's really exciting when a goal goes in like that. So Leeds are top on 72. You've got Sheffield United. They play Sheffield United, so local derby. Yeah. That's on Monday. But Daniel Farke is not going to be allowed to be pitchside.
And tell us why.
Well, you've got a yellow card for over-celebrating, giving it too much of the old jumping up and down.
What does that even mean, over-celebrating?
What does that even mean? You're right.
You can never over-celebrate, can you, Ellie?
You can. I'm going to give you an example of this. Miss Ellie, when she was young, over-celebrated to a point where she...
She's laughing. I don't know what the end of the story is. Oh, Ellie, what did you do?
Where she split her jeans, right?
What happened?
Tell us the story.
I was only about 10, and you know when you have your primary school birthday parties?
Yes.
I did a roller skating one.
Nice.
And it was me and about 10 girls, and we went on a roller skates, and I was trying to show off by doing the split.
Oh, no.
I was wearing jeans, and the jeans went... all the way from top to bottom.
So what did you do?
I've never been so embarrassed. I hit the floor and then I had to come get something to cover me over.
Oh, no.
Now, the reason we're telling this...
Well, I was going to say, it's funny you should say that.
Yeah.
Yes, is that you know all about celebrating a world record. Now, this is a really visual demonstration of what goes on. Talk us through it.
Well, it's the fastest time... Well, if ever I was going to break a world record, this is the one I'd be going for, and that's the fastest time to limbo skate under descending poles over 50 metres.
Limbo skate?
That's what I was
limbo
doing.
skate. It's doing the splits... on roller skates, leaning for... I don't know how you can... How do you balance forward? Is there wheels under a chin? I have no idea. But that's the limbo skate, leaning forward. India's Shristri Dharmendra Sharma. She did it in 9.59... I mean, my
I'd say
goodness,
her jeans could have split there very easily.
I'm not being funny, but there must be scrapage going on there, is there? Or is she
How
above the ground?
Grazed.
Because it's just very slightly... It's like when you see the skeleton going around the bobsleigh track, very slightly above. It's like a millimetre above the ground. So for those on the radio, there's this woman. She's in... What would you call the suit there? You got
like a silver catsuit.
A silver catsuit. Perfect splits, leaning forward. The roller skates are down, and then... At 9.5 seconds.
There you go. How graceful.
I'm going to have a go. I am going to have a go. You may laugh, but I'm going to try it.
So we don't even know what the Leeds manager did to celebrate, but it got him sent off. There we go.
He was a very unlucky Daniel.
Okay. Paul, thank you very much indeed for this morning.
Thank you.
Really do appreciate it.
See you tomorrow.
We are heading to a break. After that, we've got the newspaper review. Ian Paisley Jr., David Wooding with that. And before we get to that, sunshine. Where is it?
Not
Let's
here.
find out.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean all clear skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. A brisk wind continues to blow over the Canaries, but it will be easing as we head through the latter part of this week. Still a few showers across Spain and Portugal. They will also be fading. Much of the east coast of Spain seeing plenty of sunshine along with the Balearics and Sardinia, but a few scattered showers over southern parts of mainland Italy, and looking fairly showery in Greece once more. And with the winds coming down from the north, it is chilly and, if anything, getting colder in Santorini through the rest of this week. Goodbye.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
An advert for clothing retailer Next has been banned after it's judged to feature an unhealthily thin model.
Well, the advert, which was a product listing for denim leggings on the retailer's website, was deemed irresponsible by the Advertising Standards Authority after a single viewer complained.
A single viewer, OK. In its defence, Next said the ad was created with a strong sense of responsibility to both consumers and society, and while admitting the model was slim, they added that she had a healthy and toned physique that aligned with the nature of its product, its leggings.
Well, is it irresponsible to feature slim models in adverts? Let's debate this now. We're joined by the showbiz broadcaster and body positivity advocate Danielle Broadbent and the journalist and broadcaster Emma Trimble. Danielle, let's start from you. Did the Advertising Standards Authority get this one right?
Absolutely. I mean, loads and loads of brands sell leggings and they don't need to feature a super slim model to sell their clothing and their leggings. Now, from my point of view, the ASA are not saying that this woman is unhealthy. They're saying the way she's being styled and the way she's posing looks unhealthy. And with such a trend going on at the moment with no, curvy plus-size models in the fashion weeks, the trends of weight loss pens and things that are going around, are we encouraging, when we see adverts like this, vulnerable young teenage girls who are quite vulnerable anyway with body image? Are we encouraging eating disorders?
I think the idea that society is somehow, holding up anorexia as a virtue is just an anachronism. This woman is healthy. She's being body shamed for being healthy. I think people really just need to, and I know this sounds harsh, but I think they just need to get over themselves. It's this kind of scrutiny that is actually leading to people being so fixated on the way that people look.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No, I'm facing a dental bill like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, looks like
part of my mouth fell out. Right, it's a bridge, and anyway, I won't even tell you how much it is, but it's huge. But anyway,
what's your smile?
He's got a lovely smile.
No, it's okay. It's actually in a place where you don't really see.
Send them over.
Pass them over. But anyway, the thing is, I'm sort of done without it because you don't see. Right. But this is a brilliant story. We've got Ian Paisley and we've got David Wooding here to go through stories making the news. But these are lab-grown human teeth, which actually means that you could do away with fillings.
Yeah. So, story in the Daily Mail that scientists have come up with this brilliant idea, and indeed it's an experiment which has now worked and has been proved to work, that they can grow teeth from a cross between human teeth and pig teeth. Ooh. And they're able now to harvest the cells and to grow, instead of having implants that cost exceptionally lot of money, these will no doubt be not much cheaper, they actually can replace your teeth now. Instead of having fillings, you can have these human-grown teeth or lab-grown replacement teeth. Interesting. It will be 20 years before probably we see it or taste it. So, Eamonn, we'll never know this.
No.
Well,
but the big problem is probably gum disease. Gum disease is probably where you've huge issues, and probably solving that will be the next step. And when they get that, well, then maybe rotten, decaying teeth will be a thing of the past.
So gum disease, you often don't know you have gum disease because gum disease can manifest itself with things like your teeth just get further apart, and like food begins to stick in between your teeth and things like that.
It's all about flossing. It's all about
flossing. More flossing.
But you can get water flossers now. I was told the other day by the dentist.
That's great. The hygienists do that now rather than that polishing thing.
Yeah.
They do these water. It's like descaling them. The interesting thing from this study from the Boston University in Massachusetts, where this development has occurred, they say that. This is astonishing stats. Half of people over the age of 75 have got 10 or more teeth missing because it happens as you get older. And 1 in 10 people have got fillings or crowns, which causes them discomfort when they're biting and eating. So it's far more a common problem than we think of. And of course, there aren't many dentists these days. Have you tried
You can't
get an NHS
into a dentist. You can't get
one for love of the money.
Yeah.
My poor mother had a fear of dentists, and but she always used to boast that these are all my own teeth and they're all amazing and whatever it is. And then she got to 90 and she went to the dentist, and I swear to God, he practically pulled out every one of them.
No.
It was awful. I mean, it was really the demise of her. She suddenly went from looking okay to, well, like that.
Why did you pull them all out?
Because they had to go. They were rotten. She was 90. And they weren't. She'd never been for fillings or anything like that. That was it.
They should last your lifetime.
When I was a child,
well looked after, brushed every day.
Yeah.
When I was a child, it was fashionable to have all your teeth removed when you got to 21 because everybody had bad teeth and were given false teeth dentures. And lots of people did, working class people got to the age of 25 and
they
all came out and they had dentures.
And now it's Turkey teeth, isn't it? People just go to Turkey and get cheap dental work done, get their veneers stuck on and get their real teeth shaved down. So, I mean, that's going to be a crisis in 20 years.
If there's a problem with it, you have to go into the NHS and try and get it solved.
And they see horror stories, apparently, from
No,
Turkey.
a horror story is, and David, this is front page, this is the lead on the Express, 3 out of 4 old-age pensioners are living in cold homes. Now, a lot is talked about this, said about it. Is there proof that it is true?
Yes, it's a study by one of the age charities, Age UK, which shows that 650,000 pensioners are struggling in the cold this winter. 9 million, 650,000 in real severe difficulty. 9 million people saying that they're too cold in their homes. That's about 3/4 of pensioners, and a third of them say that they're cold most of the time, which is really serious. Now, it's a key Labour tenet that you're looked after from the cradle to the grave. And one of the criticisms of the early days of the Labour government was that one of their first announcements was to cut the winter fuel payment. Now, there's an Age UK petition which has had more than 500,000 signatures, which will no doubt lead to a debate in the House of Commons. But on top of this, Ofgem are expected to raise the cap yet again by another £100 on fuel bills, which would it's already gone up by 170. So there's no end to this, and the charities are saying government will have to do something about it next year. We can't go on like this.
If you're affected, if you've got a story to tell, get in touch with us this morning and we will reflect that. Here's a story about in car insurance, and the Chancellor was tried to intervene in all of this, but a judge has rejected her intervention. It's in The Guardian. Tell us the story.
So, well, you'll remember the PPI scheme, wherever you could apply. I bought a credit card. I wasn't told how much the commission was going to be in that credit card. Therefore, I could make a claim and get some money back. This is a similar vein where insurance brokers should have declared that they were getting a commission for the insurance that they were selling. And as a result of not declaring that, there's now been this case, a class action taken, and it's going to cost £44 billion, where lenders will actually then have to pay this money back to you and me who sought insurance, and we're not told that there was commission being paid to the broker. Of course, the Chancellor, I think, actually was doing the right thing. She was trying to actually stop the market from having a bit of a run here, and because ultimately insurance will probably go up, because who ultimately pays for this? You know, if they give us money with the right hand, they will take it away with the left hand by putting the premiums up again next year. So there's going to be, at some point, someone will ultimately pay, and it will be you, me, people out there, the consumers, for higher insurance costs. But the Chancellor's intervention has been slapped down by the courts, said, no, you can't intervene in this. You can't defer. The market may be affected. And I see one of the insurance brokers' prices went down on Monday by 8%.
8%?
On the market. Lloyd's is one of the biggest car lenders. I think theirs went down by nearly 3%. So there's going to be an impact on the market here, but ultimately, you, me, the consumer, we may get something back, but we're going to end up paying more insurance.
Yeah. I heard one of those ads this week, you know, if you've bought a car between whatever and whatever, and you maybe owed some money. And when I hear all those ads, I think, yeah, I'm probably owed some money. But you never do it. But I never do anything about it, so I do.
Yeah.
But that's, of course, what people rely on. That people, you know, some of these companies rely on, that you'll never claim it. But there was billions paid out on the PPI scheme, and no doubt a lot of people will get a payout on this scheme.
Yeah, I'm sure they will.
If it's passes, obviously.
Doctor Who, David.
Who?
In a bit of trouble. It says facing the axe. This is in the Sun today.
Yeah, well, for over 60 years, Doctor Who's battled the Daleks and fought off the Cybermen, and now it looks like he's finally going to be defeated by wokeness, it seems, according to the Sun here, with the headline "Exterminate." The series could be coming to an end finally, because the viewing figures have plummeted since the new Doctor Who took over, and he's thinking of quitting because he doesn't like the storylines. And we've got stories about things like we had a trans person. One Doctor Who episode, the Doctor realised he was gay after developing a crush on Sir Isaac Newton, and in one of the specials, the plot involved a character who was able to save London because they were trans. But viewing figures which have gone down to about 2 million now, and there's talk about the franchise being removed, and also about Nakuti, the new Doctor Who, quitting. Now, it's not because he's black. People don't mind that. It's the storylines and the weird outfits he's been seen dressed up in. So we'll wait and see. They reckon it'll be another year before this happens, because the contract is going to be spoken about. But Doctor Who fans will, no doubt, if there's any left, will no doubt be unhappy about that.
Can't say I know anybody that watches it. Do you watch it?
I used to watch it as a child. David Tennant was my era.
Yeah.
He was a good doctor.
He was a good doctor.
Oh, Tom Baker's, yeah, it's a lot of people's favourite.
In the 1970s. But again, and none of my kids watched it.
No.
You know, it just wasn't.
William Hartnell was the last one I remember.
Yeah.
Well, that's going back a bit, isn't it? Yeah.
He was the first one, but...
Was it Christopher Eccleston? Did he do it for a little while? He was very good as well.
Well, that's an interesting point, Ellie, because Christopher Eccleston was the shortest-serving Doctor Who. In 2005, he lasted for one series, and this, the latest one, will be the second shortest-serving Doctor Who.
Goodness me.
David, Ian, it's been great to see you today. Thank you very much for your company and going through the papers with us. Let's get a check on the weather now, shall we, with Alex Deacon, because it's a cold one.
Woo! A chilly start will give way to a lovely, warm afternoon. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Bit of a damp start for Northern Ireland and Scotland, where there's a bit of snow falling too. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll be a dry day, and for many, quite a bright day. It's not just snow, some freezing rain also across parts of southern Scotland, so it could be icy here for the morning commute. The damp weather slowly fizzles out as we go through the day. Bit of snow even at lower levels, but most of it will be over the hills. The rain and drizzle easing off across Northern Ireland. Staying quite windy here, quite a brisk breeze breeze along the south coast of England, South Wales. The brightest skies in the east, but temperatures again struggling here despite a bit of weak sunshine. 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, a little milder further west, but for most still a pretty chilly day, and again quite quickly turning quite cold this evening. Still the odd little bit of rain and drizzle across northern Scotland into this evening, but generally it is turning drier here, staying fairly cloudy and getting quite gusty, particularly for Northern Ireland, the west coast of Scotland. Brisk and cold breeze continues to come in off the near continent, and with some clear skies over central and eastern England, we will again have a frost forming through the night. Also through the night, the winds will strengthen down to the southwest as the cloud starts to increase as we go through the early hours here. Elsewhere, though, generally staying dry with a mixture of high cloud and clear skies. Temperatures will be falling down to freezing, degree or so below in rural spots. But further west, notice we should stay a few degrees above freezing because it is slowly turning milder here. Milder but also wetter, quite a damp morning for Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, and that rain spreading into Northern Ireland quite quickly too. So a damp start here. That rain will trickle into other parts of Wales, southwest Scotland, but tended to fizzle out somewhat as it does so. For many central and eastern parts, it's another dry day tomorrow. Still bright and still on the chilly side, but it is turning milder from the west.
Of the fees when they go in to start arresting.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A85 is closed each way between Oban and Connell after an accident last night. The diversion route's over 80 miles long. The A1 in East Lothian has a lane closed westbound heading into Edinburgh between the Dalkeith turnoff and the Edinburgh City bypass at the Craighall junction after an accident. Queues towards there. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there's a lane closed southbound where someone's broken down between junctions 31 and 30 near Sheffield and Worksop. On the M6 in Cheshire, the outside lane's closed southbound after an accident between junctions 21A and 21 from the M62 to Warrington, causing queues, and the M6 blocked southbound between junctions 17 and 16 near Crewe after an accident with queues there too. In Kent, the A2 is blocked eastbound where a car's overturned near Cobham, causing delays back onto the end of the M2. And on the M27 in Hampshire, there's a lane closed westbound where a car's broken down just before junction 7, causing queues towards Southampton.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
We're giving you not one, but 2 chances to win this month, with 2 prize bundles that include an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. But that's not all. You'll also get a brand new iPhone 16 and a £500 shopping voucher to spend at your favourite store. So why not be extra lucky this month? For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A crisis in Europe. Emergency talks over Ukraine fall apart.
Sir Keir Starmer's peace plan in tatters as Germany's Premier Olaf Scholz dramatically departs discussions early.
Or could this further delay peace for Ukraine?
At stake is not just the future of Ukraine, it is an existential question for Europe as a whole.
Transport Secretary Heidi Alexander had this to say.
What we can't have is a situation where there is a temporary pause in hostilities, say, which allows Putin to return with a territorial incursion into a sovereign country.
Well, with key European leaders rejecting Keir Starmer's peace plan, all eyes are on Riyadh and what the Americans hatch up with the Russians.
Holy
A Delta Airlines flight crashes in Toronto and dramatically flips on the runway. Miraculously, all 80 passengers are still alive. But is this a sign that air travel is becoming less safe?
And are prison sentences just too long? A damning report blames politicians for wanting to appear tough on crime for a rise in lengthy jail terms.
A construction crisis. House building pros warn Labour's plan to build, build, build could end in tears, with quality going down the drain.
It's 20 years since the fox hunting ban. Could trail hunting be the next after the government promises to outlaw the pastime beloved by many?
An emotive anniversary for the supporters of the hunt and those that oppose it. What will it mean if trail hunting is the next to go for rural communities, the hounds and the huntsmen?
It is turning milder through the rest of this week, but it is taking its time. Another chilly one today, and there's a bit of snow and ice in the forecast this morning. Join me later for a full forecast.
And thank you for joining us right now on this Tuesday morning. It's just after 9 o'clock. I'm Eamonn Holmes.
I'm Ellie Costello, and this is GB News Breakfast.
So you're waking up today to a crisis in Europe as Germany rejects Britain's peace plans for Ukraine.
Well, speaking after a summit of European leaders in Paris yesterday, the Prime Minister reiterated that he is prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground in Ukraine if there is a lasting peace agreement.
Europe must play its role, and I'm prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground alongside others if there is a lasting peace agreement. But there must be a US backstop, because a US security guarantee is the only way to effectively deter Russia from attacking Ukraine again. So I will go to Washington next week to meet President Trump and to discuss what we see as the key elements of a lasting peace.
Well, meanwhile, the United States and Russia's most senior officials are gathering in Saudi Arabia after the President of the USA, Donald Trump, announced peace talks.
Well, joining us now is GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Good to see you, Mark. And should we start with Paris yesterday? Because Sir Keir Starmer would have been hoping to demonstrate a united front with Europe. It was anything but, really, with Olaf Scholz walking out early.
Listen, there's no way to sugarcoat this. This is deeply embarrassing for Sir Keir Starmer, who just a day earlier, of course, wrote and had various newspapers talking about his bold peace plan to put UK forces effectively into a very troubled, very dangerous area as part of any peace plan that would hopefully eventually be hatched out between the US, Russia and Ukraine. But he got short shrift, really, at that summit, with Germany and Poland saying absolutely not. This is premature and inappropriate to be talking about this. And you can understand why, because no one knows what the shape of any potential peace deal will be. But regardless of that, actually to commit troops to such a volatile area. This isn't like, you know, the DMZ in Korea, which is, you know, bad enough in terms of the border, the requirements of 25 permanent US personnel along that stretch between South Korea and North Korea. This is a hot zone where we've had 3 years, and we continue to have the most bloody trench warfare, hand-to-hand fighting points where it will be very, very difficult to ensure that the sides are kept apart and abide by whatever the peace deal is that hatches out. So that kind of commitment is going to be very dangerous for any country that decides to put their troops in harm's way. And it's clear that Germany and others just felt that Sir Keir Starmer was being completely premature in going out there and making this pronouncement.
And all eyes on Riyadh today for those talks between Russia and the US. What are we expecting to come out there? Well, the US are saying, look, these are not peace negotiations. These are preliminary talks to speak to a country which has not been engaged with in any meaningful way since the invasion in February of 2022. The US, European leaders have never had any meaningful talks with Russia since then. So this, according to the Trump administration, is an opportunity for them to speak to them, to engage with them, to gauge, first of all, whether they are serious about entering into formal peace negotiations, what their potential red lines might be, and then they can take that forward. And at that point, Ukraine would be fully involved in any formal talks and negotiations. So it, again, is premature to be talking, as some commentators are, about Ukraine being frozen out of the process. This is fact-finding, initial conversations with Russia to see whether they are serious about entering into formal peace talks. OK, Mark White, good to see you. Thank you very much.
7 minutes past 9 o'clock on this Tuesday morning. You're very welcome. 20 years ago today, fox hunting became illegal, ending a long history of the practice.
Well, 2 decades later, and the government has promised to go further and ban trail hunting as well.
But campaigners say the current plans are inadequate and can still be exploited to harm wildlife.
Well, let's speak now to GB News East Midlands reporter Will Hollis, who joins us now, and hopefully surrounded by lots of dogs again. Well, good morning.
Good morning, Eamonn and Ellie. There are a few subjects from this side of this century that are quite as emotive as the ban on hunting with dogs. 20 years ago, the Hunting Act came into effect, making it illegal to hunt mammals, so foxes, deer and hare, with hounds just like these ones. The countryside saw it as an attack on a tradition that's been going on for 1,600 years, but campaign groups say it's a cruel and barbaric sport which continues to this day. Let's speak to somebody from the Biston and Wadden Chase Hunts. Let's talk to Ollie. Ollie, tell me a little bit about trail hunting, because that's what the government say they're committed to banning. Some people in the public might see these hounds, they might see people like you on horseback and say fox hunting is still going on. What is trail hunting?
Well, trail hunting is the sport of following a laid trail. We don't know where that trail goes, although the trail layer does, and the person organising that day, with full permission of the landowner, will then lay a trail, and these hounds who've been hunting trails for 20 years, retrained to do that, follow that trail over glorious English countryside, and we all have a very good time.
The government say they're committed to banning trail hunting. They say that they're elected on a mandate to do so, something that was in their manifesto. DEFRA, the Department for Rural Affairs, says that trail hunting is just a smokescreen to continue fox hunting. What's your message to the government when you hear that?
Sure. The message is loud and clear from the countryside that this government was elected to reset their relationship with the countryside. We've seen huge other priorities at the moment in the post-COVID environment, the economy being talked down but also spiralling down. We're probably on the verge of a recession which is impacting the countryside very hard. The livelihoods that go alongside this pack of wonderful wonderfully old-bred English foxhounds is huge. We employ 5 full-time people here, but there's a lot of tertiary industries as well. But more broadly, and this is the important thing, is the countryside once again feels under attack, whether that be from inheritance tax, whether that be from fairly pernicious new legislation around shotgun licensing. Everything seems to be a really skewed priority when people are simply struggling to get a policeman to come out to a burglary. They are simply struggling to get broadband. All of these things seem really skewed priorities, and they seem particularly pernicious and nasty and fueled by, let's be honest, some really militant animal rights activists.
Where we are is Oxfordshire. We're in the countryside, but today animal rights activists like the League Against Cruel Animal Sports are going to Downing Street. They've got a 104,000 signed petition urging that the government strengthen the laws around hunting with dogs. What's your message to groups like that say that all of this, anything to do with hounds, even if it is just a scent and a trail, should be completely banned?
In all the years that I've been involved with trail hunting in the countryside, I've given up trying to change people's opinions on that. What I would say is to focus on the government's priorities. We've got a situation with geopolitics that are spiralling. You probably led on Ukraine or America and Saudi Arabia negotiating. These are big stories.
You don't think this is a priority for the average British person?
I do not. And I think time and time again, when I speak to people day to day out here, you go to a pub round here, people have got much bigger things to think about than these wonderful foxhounds.
Fantastic. Perfect. So these are foxhounds, and you've got about 10 of them in here with us. We asked them to bring a few well-behaved foxhounds in. There's about 140 here with the Bicester and Wadden chase hunts. They are out hunting what they say is trail hunting today in this season. There are hunts like this all over the country, but animal rights activists and the government say they're committed to banning what they say is a smokescreen for hunting foxes.
Thank you, Will. And beautiful dogs, and very well behaved as well. Thanks for bringing that to us. How beautiful are those dogs?
Beautiful, beautiful, very nice.
Gorgeous.
I've become fond of foxes.
Have you?
Yeah, through Instagram.
Have you?
I keep getting sent films about foxes that are rescued, and then they become friendly with the people who have rescued them, and they bring their family around to visit them and whatever. I know there are differing opinions about them, but I just sort of look and I think, doggies are like foxes.
Are they quite friendly then, these foxes?
Yeah, these ones seem to be, yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're probably crawling in lice and all sorts of things. I don't know, but anyway, they're all God's creatures. That's
well,
the
they
thing.
are, yeah. And I know lots of people that feed their foxes. So,
which is controversial.
Which is controversial in itself.
Anyway. But I'm one of those people that feed foxes. I leave stuff in the garden for them.
Do you?
Yeah.
But then do you find that they all come back with their babies and they're looking for food?
Yes.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. No, but that's good. If you can help.
Quite nice to watch sometimes.
We're looking for 2 brand new winners, each with. They get an iPhone, they get shopping vouchers, £10,000 in tax-free cash. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the Great British Giveaway. And here's all you need to know to enter.
We're doubling your chances to win in our latest Great British Giveaway, with 2 fabulous prize bundles up for grabs. There's 2 lots of a totally tax-free £10,000 in cash. You'll also receive a brand new iPhone 16, along with £500 in shopping vouchers to spend at your favourite store. And the best news is, 2 lucky winners are going to win. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. Call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB11 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 7th of March. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Yes, good luck.
Yeah. Now, the government talks about building new houses to fulfil the need there is around the country. Well, the construction industry has warned that Labour's housing plans are unachievable. OK? Find out why. We're going to be bringing you to the building site after this.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
People living with obesity are people, and they deserve the right for treatment and care as much as anyone else. What we need to understand is that obesity is a chronic condition or a disease, as some people call it. It's not a choice. And this is the bit that people really struggle with, is that people think this is a lifestyle choice and people have done this to themselves. What we now know is the science and the evidence shows us that this isn't a choice. People have genetic predispositions for living with obesity. What we need to do is be a bit more compassionate and caring to people that live with obesity and support them to make healthier choices, not actually just discriminate and tell them that they're doing something wrong when, if I had asthma, for instance, you wouldn't be saying the same thing to me there. But then it's exactly the same.
Usually, if you're going for an operation of some form or other, there'll be often there is a criteria. So my mother, she had a knee operation. They wanted to make sure her blood pressure was right and all these things. This is, to hear somebody say that obesity isn't a choice just because you've got genetic predisposition to it, it's just exactly why people seem to be legitimising being overweight. Ozempic has proved that people are overweight because they eat too much. Because Ozempic tells you to stop eating, it makes you think that you've eaten and makes you feel full, so you don't eat. You may be predisposed to anything, but you also have a large percentage of responsibility to make sure that doesn't happen. So absolutely, it is in the patient's best interests, because if you're overweight, it'll take you longer to heal. You're more likely to have complications, the same if you smoke, and also the outcomes are usually better. So for a smoker, if you quit, say 4 weeks before surgery, your 25%, your risk is lower of respiratory complications. So this is literally, of course, it's discriminatory, because you have to decide, you have to prioritise the people that are likely to survive the operations.
GB News, the People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, we're talking about building lots and lots of houses, which are much needed, and the construction industry is now warning that Labour's plans to fast-track house building could reduce standards and therefore lead to more long-term structural issues.
Well, meanwhile, Angela Rayner has said there's no excuse not to meet the target of 1.5 million new homes in the next 5 years. But could this warning from the construction sector give the government food for thought?
Well, here to discuss this, Amit Oberoi, who is the chairman at Considerate Constructors, to tell us why. There's always this fear, Amit, very good morning, good to see you.
Likewise.
There's this fear with me that if you get something done, you get it done quick, you'll never get it done well. And I hope that's not the case, but I think it's as easy to do something well as it is not to do it well. But what's your take?
Yeah, that's exactly what the industry's saying as well. So we know where we are currently. We talk to developers, contractors and workers, and everyone's crying for that. It's got to be quality builds. We've got to do it the right way. I think we've got to get Britain building. It's very important for society. We need those homes, but we also need a lot of infrastructure to support that growth. The understatement currently is that we need to build the homes. Everybody knows that. That's the general ethos out there, but the quality of how we build, the standards, is what we do well. We've been the independent champion of change for 30 years. We're talking to the whole raft of construction, and everyone's on page with this, that recruitment is critical. We've got a skills gap as well. So over the next 10 years, we have to employ nearly 1 million workers.
Wow.
So they're calling that the forgotten million, and we've got to start today. We need to start doing things like, really simply, getting recruitment back out there. You know, you go to the cinemas, you see all those military ads. They make the military seem like a career place to go to, right?
Yeah.
We've got to do that for construction.
Looks good.
Do young British people want to go into construction? Because it's hard graft, isn't it? And people see it as that.
It is hard graft, but when you talk to a lot of the constructors who are close with us, that we're also in the article published together, they say, come to the offices. It's not just going out on sites these days. It's doing AutoCAD work. We use a lot of technology. So it's about the perceptions and the stereotypes we've got to change. You know, I spoke to 1,000 workers over the last couple of years, and most people were over the age of 50. So that's a bit of a dire warning as well, that we don't have people coming up. And we just don't talk about recruitment. It's about the skills gap. Like, look at the skills that we need to build and continue to build. And healthy societies have people that are part of the community that are working. So we need to look at that as well.
Are apprenticeships the answer, do you think, to get young people into the industry that we so desperately need?
That's a fantastic question, yes. Because what we find is 90% of people that do apprenticeships actually stay within the construction sector. They don't fall out. So that's what we need to do. We need 24,000 a year to sustain the growth. And that will help, obviously, get the country building again and just get the country to where we need to be.
Are the workers out there for this?
I think they are. I think they are. There are a lot of people that we could mobilise. But again, it's attracting people to the industry.
And are we as a country hit by Brexit, for instance, in attracting workers here?
Look, Brexit must have had an impact for sure. We'll know what that impact is over time. But there are lots of children that are finishing school that have no place to go, and that's the biggest thing. We need to look at vocational training, look at bringing people in, and actually just making it very simple for families. Like, I'm a parent as well, saying, listen, there is a place for your son or daughter, and it's in this fantastic industry, because construction is a great industry to be part of.
So 1.5 million new homes in 5 years, you don't think it's achievable?
I think if we don't have recruitment to back that up, we won't have the workers to actually build that and build it to the right quality spec.
Right.
Do you think we'll hit these building targets?
Again, without the workers, it's going to be very difficult.
OK, well, really good to see you this morning. Thank you very much, Eamonn O'Brien.
Thank you.
See you. Thanks for your time.
Construction. Do you know what I like about considered construction? They put boards up around renovations they're doing in buildings, and it all looks really nice. The one thing I don't like about any builder, everything is smaller. They don't. You go in, you say, but where would you put your wardrobe? Oh, young people don't use wardrobes nowadays. Honestly, I got that one time. You know, I can assure you we do. But you know, build them right, build them well, build them good, and good luck with what you're trying to do, Eamonn. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Andrew Pearce, Dawn Neeson in again today. Lovely to see you guys. What are you up to?
Good morning. You're on the naughty step. He's got the short chair. Sorry about that. Yeah. Just thought I'd point it out to make you feel even worse about it.
We're going to deconstruct Kemi Badenoch's very powerful speech yesterday, where she talked about the poison of the diversity debate, pronouns.
And asking, are all cultures equal?
Exactly.
Because she said they're not, and I actually agree with her as a woman. I think it's very important. So we're talking about that.
Yeah.
We're also discussing whether Doctor Who has been exterminated.
Yes, we were talking about this earlier.
It's the end of Doctor Who.
Why would you bother?
Because they had female Doctor Who ratings were going down. They've now got a black Doctor Who who's gay. Some of the main characters are trans, of course they are. A drag act, and the viewing figures have tanked completely.
David Tennant, Matt Smith, all good doctors.
John Pertwee.
Yes,
John Pertwee.
They're good doctors.
But then, you know, it ended after that.
It did. And so they're probably going to arrest it for 5 years. It's been going for 62 years. Wow. They arrested it before.
I know how it feels. And we're also talking about who we're kicking out of the country and who we're not. After chicken nuggets and the paedophile who couldn't be deported because of his kids' rights, we now have a Slovakian who can't be sent home because he's been rehabilitated after beating people with a shovel. He now uses a shovel for digging.
Well, you know, Dawn, we can sit and talk about all this and complain about this, but nothing will ever be done about it. So what is the point? When are we going to tackle the judiciary? When are we not going to treat them as, you know, higher than everybody else?
I think it's when we come out of the European Court of Human Rights.
Yeah,
maybe that's it.
That's why the debate, isn't it?
4.5 years, won't it?
So that's going to be the big dividing line, I think, between the Tories.
Which politicians are going to have the guts to do that?
I think Badenoch could go that way. Farage certainly would.
Well, given that speech she gave yesterday, it sounds like she's
going that way.
fighting talk.
Because that's why all these wretched people are allowed to stay in this country, and they shouldn't. Out.
Well, all of that to come at 9:30.
Indeed.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Dawn. And we will be back, yes we will, at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. But let's have a check on the weather.
Yeah, have a good day.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Good morning. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Bit of a damp start for Northern Ireland and Scotland, where there's a bit of snow falling too. For most of England and Wales, though, it'll be a dry day and for many, quite a bright day. It's not just snow, there's some freezing rain also across parts of southern Scotland, so it could be icy here for the morning commute. The damp weather slowly fizzles out as we go through the day. Bit of snow even at lower levels, but most of it will be over the hills. The rain and drizzle easing off across Northern Ireland. Staying quite windy here, quite a brisk breeze along the south coast of England, South Wales. The brightest skies in the east, but temperatures again struggling here despite a bit of weak sunshine. 5 or 6 degrees Celsius, a little milder further west, but for most still a pretty chilly day, and again quite quickly turning quite cold this evening. Still the odd little bit of rain and drizzle across northern Scotland into this evening, but generally it is turning drier here, staying fairly cloudy and getting quite gusty, particularly for Northern Ireland, the west coast of Scotland. Brisk and cold breeze continues to come in off the near continent, and with some clear skies over central and eastern England, we will again have a frost forming through the night. Also through the night, the winds will strengthen down to the southwest as the cloud starts to increase as we go through the early hours here. Elsewhere, though, generally staying dry with a mixture of high cloud and clear skies. Temperatures will be falling down to freezing, degree or so below in rural spots. But further west, notice we should stay a few degrees above freezing because it is slowly turning milder here. Milder but also wetter, quite a damp morning for Cornwall and Pembrokeshire, and that rain spreading into Northern Ireland quite quickly too. So a damp start here. That rain will trickle into other parts of Wales, southwest Scotland, but tended to fizzle out somewhat as it does so. For many central and eastern parts, it's another dry day tomorrow. Still bright and still on the chilly side, but it is turning milder from the west.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Argyll and Bute, the A85 is closed in both directions between Connell and Oban after an accident last night. There's a long diversion, it's over 80 miles long. Now, the A1 in East Lothian, the inside lane's closed westbound heading into Edinburgh between the Dalkeith turn-off at Walliford and the Craighall junction, causing queues. In Northamptonshire, the A43 is closed each way between Bullock and Wakeley after an accident with delays towards there. And as you divert on the M25 in Hertfordshire, the outside lane's closed anti-clockwise where there's an accident just before junction 17 at Maple Cross with queues from junction 18 at Chorley Wood. In Kent, the A2 is closed eastbound from the tollgate services to the Inn on the Lake junction at Cobham where cars overturned. There are long delays towards there, and train services in Cornwall are suspended between Liscard and Loo because of safety checks.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here